Chapter 869. Oh my god, the viewers in the live stream room. Chu Zijin was holding the new live stream phone that Lu Xiaoyang had just bought today. She looked at the data panel in the live stream room in astonishment. Chen Guang, who was resting with his eyes closed, looked up slightly. What's wrong? 16 million viewers are online at the same time. Oh, not bad. Xiao Chang's ladder contract has been triggered. 30 million. Chen Guang nodded lightly. Do you still care about this at a time like this? What else can I do? There's nothing for me to be serious about today. It's almost time for the semifinals to draw lots. Speaking of which, I'm really envious of you. You actually made it to the finals straight away. It's so unfair. I should be like you guys. I said it's time for the semifinals to draw lots. How powerful are the awakened from the Broca area? Why don't I see anything special about you? Apart from being pretty, you have 2 eyes, a nose and a mouth. At this moment, Chu Zijin felt that Chen Guang was cutting the conversation short again. She said east, he said west. She said cow, he said horse. What's the structure of this guy's brain? What the hell is he thinking at this moment? Forget it, I'm not going to talk anymore. I'll probably die of depression if I keep talking. The 641 semifinalists today would be divided into 16 groups. Each group had about 40 contestants. Only 3 would be selected to enter the finals. A total of 48 contestants would enter tomorrow's finals. The elimination rate was quite high. It was very cruel. It was still the same round of drawing lots. However, Chen Guang's name did not appear in the first round of drawing lots. Still not in the second round. He probably won't come today, right? He's sitting in the contestants' lounge in his own live stream room. He's just putting on a show. He'll probably either have a stomachache or a headache, or have to run away for a few days every month. That's right. If it were me, I would know when to stop. I heard that his Tianguang agency has received almost 200 million in sponsorship and copyright fees. Didn't he earn back the money? If he had not made the bet with Mr. Butler, he would have made a profit. Don't joke around. Don't think that just because Butler and Park Changnam are seeded contestants, they can easily become champions. From what I can see, among the 600 or so contestants that came out of the qualifiers, there are at least a dozen or so awakened ones from the Broca region that have never appeared before. There are also a few old pedants. Although they are not awakened ones, they were once quite famous language geniuses. That's true. None of the 45 seeded players are easy to get along with. Although Butler and Park Changnam are the permanent directors of the world's language club and have high statuses, they aren't that focused on learning, right? Similar conversations could be heard in the audience below the competition venue. Even the audience in front of their televisions and computers thought that Chen Guang probably wouldn't play this time. Perhaps the moment his name was drawn would be the moment he would withdraw from the competition. Even those who were familiar with Chen Guang probably thought the same. However, Chen Guang, who was the focus of everyone's attention, didn't feel this way at all. Instead, he lowered his head and played with his phone. Many people who were watching the live broadcast on TV, in order to see Chen Guang's current performance, simply downloaded Bamboo or Twitch mobile apps. They watched the TV while watching Chen Guang on their phones. As for those who were wearing VR monitors, it was much more comfortable. VR had multiple cameras and angles. With one click, they could freely switch between the various cameras in the competition venue and the cameras in the contestants' lounge. They could also immerse themselves in the scene. Slap. Chen Guang slapped a camera that was almost in his face. What are you doing? Are you going to give me a gastroscope? He glared at the camera in front of him. F***CK. If I didn't know you were from a VR film crew, I would have slapped your face. The cameraman quickly shook his head and stepped back. I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. I was too engrossed in the shot. I thought that the audience might also want to experience what it feels like to look at you up close. Chen Guang rolled his eyes and ignored him. He lowered his head and continued to look at his phone. However, just now, a sharp-eyed audience member caught a glimpse of his phone screen. This guy was actually reading a novel. At this time, we thought that you would definitely do some research before the competition, or at least read some professional knowledge or something. In the end, you were just reading a web novel? You should at least read a foreign language version. At this time, the results of the third group of contestants' draw suddenly appeared on the competition stage and on the screen in the contestants' lounge. Chen Guang's name was impressively on the list. It was ranked 27th. The entire world's audience held their breath at once. In the venue, the other contestants from all over the world, the experts and scholars from the World Language Association and the Wuxia Language Association, and the audience who bought tickets to watch the competition also widened their eyes. Huang Changming, Lu Xiaoliang, and the others all had different thoughts. They put their palms together and prayed. Sir, I'm begging you, please withdraw from the competition. It's enough. It's really enough. Your name is on it. It's your turn. Chu Zijin patted Chen Guang's shoulder. This guy was engrossed in reading the novel. Chen Guang raised his head and glanced at it. Oh. What does that mean? Are you going to withdraw from the competition or not? Then I'll go. See you later. Chen Guang said calmly, and then stood up as if nothing had happened. He was as calm as an office worker greeting his wife before leaving the house every morning. What was going on? He was as calm as drinking soup. Was he going to continue participating in the competition? The shady business was going to continue? When he really stood on the stage with the other 39 contestants, everyone finally recognized this rather ruthless reality. That's right, this guy was so shameless. He really chose to continue participating in the competition. Even if he was condemned by thousands of people, even if the whole world suspected him, it was useless. No one could stop him. Mr. Chen, haven't you caused enough trouble? A foreigner who looked like an old pedant standing next to Chen Guang said in a low voice. Chen Guang ignored him. He started to provoke again. It is said that modesty is a virtue for the Chinese. Mr. Chen, you have changed my view of the Chinese. Chen Guang finally turned his head slightly and looked at him. Old man, I respect you as an old man and won't argue with you. But can you shut up? You. What about me? If you talk nonsense again, I will tell the referee that you are interfering with my competition. Chen Guang turned his head and stood in the crowd with his hands clasped behind his back. Contestants, please take a step back. An answer board will rise from the bottom of the red glass panel in front of you. Please put on your headphones. On the answer board in front of you, there will be reading comprehension questions and listening questions, randomly selected according to the language you declared. You will have 2 minutes to answer each question, so please hurry up. In this round of the semifinals, you will be eliminated immediately. If you exceed the time limit, you will be eliminated immediately. There is no chance of revival. The big screen and the live broadcast signal will randomly select the contestants' answers. The language competition was different from other competitive events. It was difficult to measure the level of a contestant with a simple score. It couldn't even be measured by the number of languages a person had mastered. For example, some people claimed to have mastered 30 to 40 languages, but in fact, they could only use simple phrases in most of the languages. They couldn't even communicate with others. Then, their level was not as good as those who had mastered more than 10 languages and could communicate with others normally in their daily lives. Another example would be another type of person. Although they were linguists, they spent most of their time and energy on a few or 10 languages, which were not large in number. Every language had been passed down and evolved for thousands of years. They represented the culture and wisdom of a nation. Just like the broad and profound Chinese language, every language in the world had its own birth, evolution, and process of evolution. It might not be as complicated and changeable as the Chinese language, and it was not as complicated as the Chinese language, but it was also very deep in the academic field. Mastery was not as good as proficiency. Proficiency was not as good as intensive cultivation, and intensive cultivation was not as good as 10 years of sharpening a sword. It was difficult to quantify the level of the contestants. But a competition was a competition, and people would always come up with a solution. The rules of the semifinals, where one wrong answer would result in elimination, were indeed too cruel. There was also a lot of uncertainty. Because everyone's answers were different, there would be differences in the difficulty. Common types of languages could be randomly selected from the question bank. For some of the more niche languages, the World Language Association would find people from all over the world to help set the questions a few days in advance. The difficulty of such questions could not be controlled at all. But this was also an expedient measure. It might be too heartless for some of the unfortunate people who were eliminated. But this was a competition. There must be rules, and tears were not believed. Perhaps there would be people with good skills who failed in the semifinals. Then, they could only blame it on fate. In the next round of the finals, there would be a more comprehensive scoring mechanism. It could effectively avoid all kinds of accidents and assess the complete and true level of the contestants. Contestants, please get ready. Answer the questions. We will begin immediately. With a wave of the female host's hand, the semifinals officially began. The next moment, the answer panel of one of the contestants appeared on the television, computer, and the big screen of the competition venue. The square in the upper right corner of the screen was the contestant's face, captured by the camera on the answer panel. The question stem was in the middle of the screen, and the number of languages declared by the contestants were in the lower left corner. The questions in front of each contestant were selected by the computer program in advance, according to the language declared by the contestant, and then randomly selected from the question bank. The kind of players who had forced themselves to give false information when they first signed up were now begging the heavens to not pick a language that they didn't know very well. There had been two groups of contestants before. Among the contestants in the first two groups, most of the numbers in the lower left corner were between 10 to 15. A few people could reach 15 to 25, and a very few people exaggerated by declaring more than 30 languages. But at this time, almost everyone stared at the screen with their mouths wide open, thinking that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Host, didn't you say that the contestants would be randomly selected? Random? Random my ass. First, it was Brother Allrounder. You had to choose one correct answer out of 40 people, and all of your answers were Brother Allrounder. This was the most hypocritical pseudo-random we had ever seen. In the picture, it was Chen Guang's handsome face with his long hair fluttering in the wind. On the lower right corner was his name. This was all very normal, but what was up with the number on the lower left corner? Previously, we saw other contestants with 2 digits on the lower left corner. Suddenly, a 4-digit number popped out. This was not normal. The number displayed on the lower left corner of Chen Guang's answer panel was 4,978. Why didn't you just write 3,154 or 4,396? Why didn't you go to heaven? There must be a problem with the system, right? Chapter 870. The audience in front of the computer, the bullet screen of Chen Guang's livestream, and even the competition venue were in an uproar. That did not make sense at all. Not to mention these people, even the host was stunned for a moment. However, she received a prompt from the director on her earpiece. The director urged, "Hurry up and say something. There's no problem with Chen Guang's data. This is really the information," he declared himself. The female host adjusted her state of mind and said, "The one who appears on the screen now is Chen Guang. He's different from the other contestants. He has declared a total of 4,978 languages. You're not wrong. And I'm not wrong. There's no problem with the procedure. This is indeed the declaration information Chen Guang filled out himself. What appears in front of him now is Irish. This is an extremely minority language. Because it's not the official language of Ireland, only 40,000 people can speak it. It's one of the endangered languages. The person who set the question is an Irish professor from Oxford. Let's invite the experts to comment on the difficulty of this question. Take the Wuxia people as an example. If the difficulty of English is 1 star, and the difficulty of German is 2 stars, then the difficulty of this Irish language should be 5 stars. That's right. Although it belongs to the Latin family, there are too few people in the world who have mastered Irish. The systematic learning method has not been sorted out. Even the Irish people hardly use this language anymore, so it's extremely difficult to learn. As they chatted, another minute passed. The contestants could finally tap on the screen and choose to directly pull up the answer to the reading comprehension question. Then, Chen Guang pressed the button at lightning speed. As soon as the answer appeared, he chose B. 2 huge words appeared on the answer board. Correct. The host and the expert commentator froze at once. We're talking about how difficult the question is. Why don't you pretend to think about it a little? After a brief awkward silence, the female host, who had made rapid progress in the past 2 days, immediately changed the topic. She switched the screen to the other contestants and continued to ask the experts and judges on the field for advice. Compared to the other contestants, Chen Guang has applied for an incredible 4,978 languages. So may I ask all of you, in our question bank, are there really close to 5,000 languages? As one of the organizers of the competition, Huang Changming was also a well-known scholar in the country. He rubbed his eyebrows in pain and said, "To be honest, even though Chen Guang said he knows all languages, this is the first time I've seen the registration information of the contestants. I'm really shocked. I have to admit that we were not meticulous enough in our work. We collected questions from more than 800 different languages, and we took care of almost all the languages spoken by more than 100,000 people. Of course, we didn't let go of representative languages like Irish, which played an important role in history, but we really couldn't take care of every single language. In the previous closed-door statistics, we also specifically addressed the needs of some special small language players. We used the method of intersecting players to come up with questions, or urgently contacted scholars from all over the world. We almost achieved 99.9% accurate coverage. However, when Chen Guang filled in the registration information, he didn't check the pre-selection language we provided. He directly checked the others, and then added that 4,978 languages. We really can't do anything about it. Huang Changming was really a bit broken. Finally, another minute passed. 5 of the 40 contestants answered incorrectly and were immediately eliminated. Soon they entered the second question. The so-called random selection once again locked onto the camera lens of Chen Guang. This time, what appeared in front of Chen Guang was the Frisian language, which was only spread in the East Frisian region of Germany, and was mastered by less than 1,000 elderly people. This was not a reading comprehension question, but a listening question. A barrage of Frisian words rang in everyone's ears, even though they didn't understand what they were saying. But this time, there was no difference from the first question. The female host was talking with other experts about how difficult this question was. As a result, 1 minute had just passed, and the listening question had just ended, and Chen Guang instantly wrote the answer on the answer board with a stylus. A completely synchronized image appeared in the live broadcast signal. He actually used a language that no one could understand at all. The female host really couldn't control her emotions, and said something very unprofessional. He can't be scribbling nonsense, right? No. My God. He's not scribbling nonsense. A strong middle-aged man with blonde hair and blue eyes suddenly stood up from the guest seat. Very emotional. Mr. Marquez from Germany, do you have any questions? The female host asked in English. The man named Marquez slightly sorted out his emotions, and then said in slightly salt and pepper Chinese, "My family used to be from Frisian, but our family has moved to Bavaria for many years, and the Frisian language has gradually been forgotten. In my family, the last person who could read and write Frisian was my uncle. He passed away the year before last. This recording was provided by me. 10 years ago, during a family gathering, my uncle told us a proverb from our hometown in Frisian. Then he translated it sentence by sentence and told it to us. My uncle also wrote the story down. He hoped that we wouldn't forget Frisian. But we disappointed him, and I'm deeply sorry and ashamed. But the answer that Chen Guang wrote is exactly the same as the answer that my uncle wrote in the end." Marquez took out his mobile phone, and the high-definition live broadcast lens kept zooming in. The photo taken by his mobile phone appeared on the screen, and it was exactly the same as the words that Chen Guang had written on the answer board, that looked like scribbles to others. I really didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who could write in Frisian. I'm really a little excited that I can't even speak coherently. Marquez continued to say excitedly, Mr. Chun, I'm willing to be your student. There was an uproar in the huge venue. Chun Guang, who had already taken off his headset, waved his hand indifferently. The other contestants are still answering the questions. Although they are wearing headsets, now is not the time to talk about this. You can go back and sit down first. Yes, Mr. Chun. Marquez sat back down with slight reluctance. The person next to him teased him. Marquez, what are you thinking? How can there be such an incredible person like him in this world? Don't you think that the whole thing is being manipulated? He has written in almost 5,000 languages. There are also more than 800 languages in the question bank. Why did your Frisian coincidentally appear in his question bank? How could he answer it so easily? That's right, there must be something wrong here. What he did today is even more outrageous than yesterday. This computer system must be being manipulated. Marquez was stunned at first. That's impossible, right? Just wait and see. If you don't believe me, after today's competition, why don't you ask him to write something else in Frisian to try? He'll probably draw you a simple Snoopy. That's right, this was what many people were thinking. This seemingly random computer question, in many people's minds, was even easier to manipulate than yesterday's competition mode. Even Huang Changming, the organizer of the competition, and the middle management of Tianguang Brokerage knew that none of them had tampered with the system. However, what Chen Guang did today was even more suspicious than yesterday. For the third question, Chen Guang still finished it in 1 minute. At this time, there were only 30 contestants left. Worldwide, close to 80 million online viewers were all stunned. No one would have thought that he would have no bottom line to this extent. When everyone had already discovered his true nature as a liar, and thought that he would withdraw from the competition, not only did he not withdraw, he even went even further. Not only did he answer the questions, he even had the handwriting function. Can't you have a little more shame? Chen Guang said. Of course I have shame. I didn't cheat. And there's nothing wrong with this computer system. The one that's wrong is your brain. But no one believed him. There were less than 1,000 old men in the world who could speak a language. And not only could he understand it, but he could also write words that would soon be lost? Are you kidding me? When the fourth question was also solved by Chen Guang at the speed of light, Huang Changming's face turned completely pale. President Huang, you have to give all of us a reasonable explanation. Why did such a situation happen? The people from the World Language Club, Park Changnam, Butler, and the others couldn't hold back anymore. Even though the competition was still ongoing, they started making things difficult for Huang Changming in front of everyone. Huang Changming trembled for a long time. His mind was blank, so he decided to just throw in the towel and say, "Don't ask me everything." The process of setting the questions, the writing of the computer program, and the backstage technicians in charge of operating the computer were all provided by you. The entire process was open to the public, and everyone was supervising each other. What didn't you see? Now you're asking me what's going on? I'm the one who wants to ask you. Butler Gay said angrily. Excuses. This is a farce. That's right. Chase Chen Guang down now. The commotion among the people below the stage was getting more and more intense. These people were arguing loudly in front of Chen Guang. Chen Guang finally spoke. Everyone, must you do this? Of course. Your behavior is too shameful. We absolutely can't accept it. You don't have the right to step onto the stage of the finals. Chen Guang waved his hand and said, Evidence? Do you have any evidence? For a moment, everyone was stunned. They really did not have any evidence. Everything was just speculation. Since there's no evidence to prove that I cheated, what right do you have to question the fairness of the competition? Why are you so anxious? There's a debate in the finals. Can I still advance by manipulating the competition or leaking the information in advance? Chen Guang's expression became more and more severe as he spoke. I have reason to believe that all of you are using baseless speculation to defame me. I reserve the right to pursue your slander. You want me to withdraw from the competition without any reason. That's a violation of the rules of the competition. As an investor, I have reason to believe that this competition is unfair. according to the contract, I have the right to withdraw my investment. I have reason and the right to terminate the competition. Chen Guang's words were spoken in front of everyone. The huge venue was silent for a moment. He wasn't wrong. This time, even the other contestants were anxious. Everyone had flown thousands of miles from all over the world to come here. Wasn't it for the huge prize money? If Chen Guang wanted to stop the competition, it would mean that the prize money would be gone. Who wouldn't be afraid? Chapter 871. Mr. Chen, don't be like this time. Even the president of the World Language Club wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He was anxious. Chen Guang sneered. It's not that I don't want to be like this, but you'd better shut up. The fairness of this competition can't be denied by your random guesses. Time will prove everything. No one thought that Chen Guang would fly into a rage in public. In their eyes, no matter how rich or powerful a cheater was, he must be psychologically weak and inferior to others. They felt that Chen Guang's choice was like an ostrich. He wanted to hide his head in the sand and stick his butt out. He knew that everyone could see through him, but they couldn't do anything to him. He shamelessly turned this sacred and noble competition into a farce. At least so far, Chen Guang's performance really showed such signs. He ignored everyone's doubts about him, but he never publicly responded. He still walked forward in this competition step by step. This showed that there was no problem with other people's guesses. This was indeed his plan. But now he suddenly flew into a rage in public, leaving everyone at a loss. What was wrong with the world? Since when could even thieves be so arrogant and domineering as to walk openly under the sun? You're obviously a shameful thief. Where did you get your courage and guts from? How shameless must a person be to be able to say such nonsense with his eyes wide open like this? Chen Guang looked at this group of people who were flustered and stunned. He said with a cold face, "Since I participated in this competition, you people have been slandering me on the internet. I didn't respond to you, so you think I'm guilty?" With that, he looked around and said, "Why? Are you afraid of losing the prize money? Don't dare to say it? Ridiculous. You are extremely ridiculous. I didn't respond because I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Because it's more powerful to do something practical than to say 10,000 words of nonsense. I plan to keep silent until tomorrow's final, but you really annoy me, like flies in the toilet. Congratulations, you finally succeeded in angering me. But from now on, I hope that all of you will shut your mouths. If anyone dares to ask me to withdraw from the competition again, I will turn this competition into a real farce. This will indeed cause my company to suffer heavy losses, because I did not complete the sponsorship and live broadcast contract. But it doesn't matter. Although I love money, I love face even more. What? Mr. Park Chan-nam, Mr. Butler, Mr. Buzz? Judging from your expressions, you don't seem to be very happy. Do you have any objections? Sorry, even if you have something to say, please hold it in. You'd better think this through. I'm sponsoring this competition. For this World's Language Conference, I invested a total of 140 million. I once said that this is the stage I built for myself. Whether you believe it or not, that is the truth. On my stage, I won't allow any comments or opinions that make me unhappy. Otherwise, we'll break up. Do you understand? Do you understand the Chinese expression for breaking up a deal? You can say whatever you want behind my back. Even if you find a dark wizard to cast a curse on me, it doesn't matter. But now, even if you want to strangle me to death, please tie your hands up. Chen Guang fired off a barrage of words. At this time, the other 23 contestants finally solved the fourth question. Fortunately, these contestants were wearing excellent soundproofing headphones, so they did not hear Chen Guang's unreasonable barrage. Otherwise, they could forget about answering the question seriously. However, after this group of people took off their headphones, they raised their heads and looked at the judges in front of them, the experts and scholars in the guest seats behind them, and the ordinary audience behind them with their mouths wide open. Their minds were filled with confusion. What happened? Was there an earthquake just now? They did not know if there was an earthquake, but the competition venue was definitely shaken. All right, since no one has any objections, Let's continue the competition. At this time, Chen Guang snatched the MC's job and waved his hand. The female MC suddenly came back to her senses. She first looked at Huang Changming and saw him nodding bitterly. She hurriedly said in a clear voice, "All contestants, please put on your headphones and focus on the next question." Chen Guang did not say anything and slowly put on his headphones. He could probably imagine what people on the internet would say, but he did not mind. Everything would be revealed tomorrow. It did not matter if others scolded him or hated him. The foundation of all their beliefs was based on the premise that he was a cheater. However, in the finals, he could sweep away all dissatisfaction, like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. At that time, those who scolded him today would understand how stupid they were. Only the weak would argue in vain, and the strong would only prove themselves with real results and ability. I don't care if there's a flood outside, just don't let me see it again. And don't continue to talk about me in front of me. It doesn't matter what I don't hear or see. Reality proved that he was not someone who could live in the upper class. If it was Bai Hua or Lu Fei in his current situation, perhaps they would choose to continue to endure it. At the very least, they would put these words behind the scenes and not fly into a rage in front of everyone. Wu Tong, who was watching TV in her office, summed it up well. Wu Tong bitterly smiled and said to herself, "I know you're pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. Do you think I don't understand the tricks you learned from novels? I thought you could hold it in until tomorrow, but you really can't hold it in. However, you're really going to be condemned by everyone this time. You brat Sai, really?" At this time Tang Ying called. Tang Ying hurriedly said, "Lady Tong, you're also watching the live broadcast, right? I already told you to persuade him. Now that it's like this, what should we do? There are many colleagues in my office who used to like him, but now they're starting to say bad things about him. This brat is simply crazy. This won't do. Hurry up and call your colleagues in Yanjing. Tell them to go to the Dongqing Convention Center and drag him away no matter what." Wu Tong sighed. "Lady Ying, don't be silly. Now that he's like this, we can't stop him, okay? Even if I drag him away now, the impact of this matter will be gone. This is just confessing, okay? Then what should we do now?" Wu Tong grinned. "Nothing. Wait until tomorrow, when he makes everyone kneel down and sing Concord to him. Then the whole world will be quiet. This is his greatest source of confidence. That's why he's so unbridled today." "How is that possible?" "Chen Guang did it. I swear on my honor." Far away on the lawn of Gokyo University, Sun Xiaoxuan, Lin Jingwei, and the others who were watching the live broadcast on their phones were also silent. After a long time, Lin Jingwei took a deep breath and said, "This time it's all over." "Is he really crazy?" Gao Ya's eyes widened. Sun Xiaoxuan stammered, "He." Bai Nyangzi beat his chest and stamped his feet. "What is Brother Guang thinking? How could he say that? Even if he can shut up the people in the venue, he can't control the mouths of the people on the internet. Right? Isn't he just burying his head in the sand? He can't do this." Xiong'er said, "Brother Guang can't be thinking of deceiving himself and winning, can he? But what's the point?" Lin Jingwei stood up and said, "God knows." "Little Lin, where are you going?" Gao Ya asked. Lin Jingwei hesitated for a moment. "I'm going to call my grandfather." Gao Ya and Sun Xiaoxuan were stunned. Both of them knew who his grandfather was. So things had already gotten this serious? Xiong'er and Bai Nyangzi didn't understand what was going on. Lin Jingwei took 2 steps forward and suddenly stopped. He turned around and said, "Forget it, I'm not going." Gao Ya urged, "Don't you go. You should go. Now only your grandfather and the others can stop him from going crazy, right?" Lin Jingwei shook his head. "I just realized something." "What?" they asked in unison. Lin Jingwei clenched his fists. If Brother Guang was just playing around, he wouldn't do this. It wasn't the first day I'd known him. Although Brother Guang often did things unconventionally, he never fought a battle he wasn't prepared for. I was just thinking that maybe he really has something to rely on. Maybe what he's been saying all this time is true. Stop it. How is that possible? Do you think humans are computers? What about 4,978 languages? Can you remember it all? Don't you guys think it's weird? Lin Jingwei said. Please finish your sentence, or I'll make sure you die a slow death. Gaoya clenched her fists. Lin Jingwei quickly restrained himself. We all know how bad Brother Guang's English was in the past. Lu Yinggui's title is not for nothing. But last semester, when the professor from MIT came, Brother Guang suddenly stood up and spoke. His accent, his strength, it was like he was a different person. Don't you guys think it's weird? Everyone's eyes gradually lit up. Bai Fan clapped his hands and said, You're right, it's really weird. I even asked him a few times. But he always pretended to be mysterious, saying that he suddenly got enlightened. Lin Jingwei nodded. That's right. But I don't think he's lying. He suddenly got enlightened. But now it seems like he didn't just get one. Xiong'er asked, How many? Lin Jingwei said doubtfully. 4,978? Bai Nyangzi said, That's like a sieve, right? Xiong'er said, Even a normal sieve doesn't have that many holes. Lin Jingwei coughed and said, Okay, let's get down to business. In my opinion, haven't there been stories of people being struck by lightning and suddenly being able to speak other languages? In my opinion, Brother Guang must have been struck by lightning or electricity, so he suddenly learned all the languages in the world. Other than that, there's no other explanation. Bai Nyangzi said, It must have been a stormy night, and the lightning would have to be as thick as a water tank to hit his face. Xiong'er said, If he was electrocuted, he would have to be electrocuted for at least 3 days and 3 nights. Gaoya was also infected, and it had to be 380 volts of industrial electricity. Lin Jingwei said, Great minds think alike. Chapter 872. Another 20 to 30 minutes passed. Amidst the strange and silent atmosphere of the competition, Chen Guang and 2 other experts who had mastered over 23 languages stood in the end. The average standard of Chen Guang's Group 3 was not weak. In fact, it was quite high. At least 20 people had declared for over 15 languages. As for those who had actually mastered close to 20 languages, there were even 8 people who had declared for over 20 languages. After eliminating the majority of those who had made false declarations, muddled their way through, or had bad luck, the remaining 23 people stood alongside Chen Guang on the 15th question. When it came to the 16th question, Chen Guang and 7 other people successfully answered the question. The other 15 people were immediately eliminated. The reason for that was simple. They had no more questions to answer. They had only declared for 15 languages to begin with. After another 8 difficult questions, the other 7 people were eliminated one after another. Only Chen Guang and 2 other people were left. Those who had been eliminated due to the small number of languages they had declared might have felt wronged. They could say that they had a deep understanding of certain languages. Their specialty was mastery, but not miscellaneous. However, the competition did not believe in tiers. This was the highest stage in the world. Even if these people had spent a decade sharpening their swords in 15 languages, and all of them had reached the master level, how could they be compared to those awakened ones from Broca region, who had mastered more than 20 languages? Some even reached up to 34 languages. They were geniuses and hardworking. Take Chen Guang's 2 companions, for example. One of them had just publicly acknowledged his identity as an awakened from the Broca region, while the other was a professor from a famous foreign university. Both of them had declared for over 30 languages. However, this semifinal round was not enough for them to display their full strength. As for Chen Guang, who had declared for 4,978 languages, no one believed that he had any full strength. Compared to the uproar at the end of yesterday's preliminary round, today, when Chen Guang walked off the stage, the large venue was completely silent. It felt like the calm before the storm. If it weren't for the fact that there would be a debate between the contestants in the finals, Chen Guang's true colors would be revealed. Even if the contestants, scholars, and experts could barely hold themselves back, the audience would have made a ruckus. But now forget it. No matter how arrogant he was, at least they, who had bought tickets to watch the match, were able to witness a good show with their own eyes. As for your shady dealings, as long as you're happy, the higher you jump now, the harder you'll fall later. In the past 2 days, Chen Guang had really brought himself a lot of haters, so much so that many people in the venue looked at this matter coldly. President Chen, After Chen Guang came down, Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, and Lu Xiaoyang all appeared backstage. Yu Hong, who was the steadiest of them all, took the initiative to walk forward. His tone was heavy, as if he wanted to say something, but he hesitated. On the other side, Lu Xiaoyang quietly moved next to Chu Zijin, who was broadcasting, and gave her a look, asking her to turn off the live broadcast. Chen Guang nodded at Chu Zijin, then calmly greeted the audience in the live broadcast room, and then asked her to turn off the private live broadcast camera. Now the haters in the bullet screen could no longer be blocked. Even if Chen Guang's own authorized moderators and the 20 to 30 super moderators from Xiaozong Zhuzi's side went all out, they still couldn't stop the flood of haters. This was different from the past. In the past, most of the haters in Chen Guang's live broadcast room were paid by the studio to cause trouble. Basically, they could block the IP segment and kill them. Today, these haters in the bullet screen were basically fans of Chen Guang in the past 2 days. They were real passers-by who turned to hate. These people couldn't even be counted as haters, but netizens with a heart of justice. They came from all over the world, and each of them had a heart to uphold justice and resist the shady business. They crazily attacked Chen Guang's bullet screen. They weren't robots, but people with flesh and blood from all over the world. Everyone's IP address was completely different, and it was impossible to block the IP segment. Alright, old you, we've said the same thing too many times. Let's talk about it after the finals tomorrow. Alright. Yu Hong nodded. Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang didn't try to persuade him this time. Things had already become like this, and there was no turning back. At this time, whether he withdrew from the competition or deliberately lost the competition, or whatever else, it was impossible to change the situation. President Chen, our company won't collapse, right? In the end, Lu Xiaoyang couldn't help but ask this question before Chen Guang left. Chen Guang smiled. It won't collapse. Just wait to get rich. Our journey is the sea of stars. This small matter is nothing. Huh? Yu Hong and the other two were stunned. But, in the end, Lu Xiaoyang didn't say it out loud. When Chen Guang walked out of the Dongqing Convention and Exhibition Center, Yang Shi was waiting for him in the car. The competition was still going on inside, but Chen Guang wasn't in the mood to continue staying inside. He felt uncomfortable all over, so he might as well go back to the hotel to play games. Several people in the company were still busy organizing the competition, and Yang Shi, who had nothing to do, became his driver. Chen Guang, I watched the live broadcast of the competition just now. As soon as he got in the car, Yang Shi said this without any rhyme or reason. Chen Guang grunted. And then, Yang Shi suddenly smiled. It seems that you're really impatient. Don't worry, I won't persuade you like others. What do you mean? Yang Shi started the car and said with emotion. I have an idea, but it might not be completely correct. In my eyes, people who can really act, who can live in other people's plays, must have rich life experiences. Why do people say that old actors have good acting skills? Apart from a few real geniuses, most of the old actors had accumulated their skills, bit by bit over time. Then, they applied their understanding of life into their acting skills. Only then could they become old actors. Although others don't know your acting skills, I do. I think, although you're young, you must have some unknown experience that made you understand life. I think you've been acting recently, and you're acting for others to see. Chen Guang was stunned at first, but then he smiled and said, You really think highly of me? No. This is my intuition. As a director, my intuition about actors. I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. Just like now, many people are waiting to see you make a fool of yourself. But you must have a way to deal with it, right? Chen Guang rubbed his nose and nodded. He didn't expect that when others thought he was finished, Yang Shi, who didn't have much contact with him, could see it so clearly. Perhaps this was the truth. The closer you get, the more you can't see MT Tai. On the way, Chen Guang received a call from Little Kong, that brother Chen Guang. Although I know those people at the venue went a little overboard. With you gone, There's only one channel left in our live broadcast room. The number of people online has dropped to less than 10 million. Chen Guang looked out the window. There's no rush. I'll start broadcasting again in half an hour. Broadcasting what? Broadcasting a game. Little Tsong. Half an hour later, Chen Guang's personal live broadcast room started broadcasting again. The haters and Chen Guang's few remaining hardcore fans who had just dispersed swarmed back again. Everyone thought he couldn't handle the pressure today and was going to ditch the show. But they didn't expect him to start broadcasting again. Even though his competition was over, what was he broadcasting now? When these people opened Chen Guang's live broadcast room, they thought they were seeing things. They then switched to the main stage to confirm that they were not blind. This guy is actually playing games. The competition is still going on. You're playing games again? Can't you be reasonable? Since you're participating in the finals tomorrow, aren't you going to do anything to prepare? Although he was being scolded, his popularity in his live broadcast room rose rapidly. Including the audience on the main stage, the total number of viewers was stable at more than 13 million. By the time people got off work at 5 or 6 p.m., the number continued to rise. By the end of the day, it was still around 15 million. Chen Guang was determined today. Not only did he not look at the bullet screen, but he also turned off the voice and microphone in the game. It was obvious that he was listening to the music 1v9. I don't have the mood to talk nonsense with you mortals. My time is very valuable. With that thought in mind, he once again immersed himself in the intense stairway solo matches. It was another half a day of intense and exciting stairway matches. His solo points did not increase by much due to his wins and losses. Currently, his solo points were as high as 10,800, which was 1,500 points higher than the second highest in the world. If it was not for V-Club's special care, it would have been almost impossible for him to be matched with an opponent. It was precisely because his points were too high that his teammates, who had an average of 8,000 points, became worse and worse every time he competed. Although he could carry the entire game every time, the gap between his teammates and his opponents was getting bigger and bigger, and the matches were getting harder and harder. However, he enjoyed it. At his current level, only this seemingly fair but actually deceptive matchmaking mechanism could allow him to experience the fun of the game and be completely immersed in it, ensuring the effects of his training. In the blink of an eye, it was the next morning. A total of 93 contestants finally appeared in the finals. After what happened the day before, the entire competition's popularity rose once again. This was definitely the most blatant under-the-table manipulation since mankind entered the internet era. No, this is no longer under-the-table manipulation. This is clearly a blatant robbery. The stupid Wuxia language association had become a complete laughingstock. It was precisely because of their inviting the wolf into the house that this fellow Chen Guang had the opportunity to wave his check and forcefully intervene in the academic conference like a wolf in a flock of sheep. He turned this rigorous and sacred occasion into a child's play and his plaything. He played with academics, the audience, and everyone. He treated everyone as if they were blind and unscrupulously played dirty in the competition. Others exposed him, but he still used the prize money to blackmail others. He was simply insane. Was he the richest person in the world? Of course not. His personal assets were still worlds apart from reaching the next level. Even the richest people in Europe, America, or the Middle East were not as arrogant and despotic as him. This young internet celebrity, who had just turned 20, was completely immersed in his own world and could not extricate himself. He felt that money talked, and that he could flout morality with a check. His success came too suddenly and too easily, so the young him was lost. But what could he do in the finals? This was a debate PK elimination system with random lots drawn, and there was also a judge's scoring segment. Could it be that he had already bribed all his opponents, and then bet all the way to the championship? Stop joking. Other than Chen Guang himself, and that very young and beautiful Wuxia female contestant, the other 91 people wished they could skin him alive, gnaw on his bones, eat his flesh and fry his kidneys. It was not that the television, computers, or the live audience had a pair of eyes that could see through people's hearts. It was that the other 91 contestants standing in the field, including well-known scholars like Butler Guy, Park Chung-nam, Will Bartz and Powell Bryan, were all staring at Chen Guang, who was standing at the front as if there was no one else around. These people's eyes hid countless emotions such as contempt, hatred, disgust, and resentment. It was rather complicated, and there was no doubt that all of them were negative. Any normal person could see that everyone was unhappy with Chen Guang. Why do I feel a little chilly? Chu Zijin, who finally didn't have to be the host today, and stood in the crowd with Chen Guang as a contestant, said to Chen Guang faintly. Chen Guang snorted. If looks could kill, if the power of curses could really send people to hell, I would have probably died 100 times. Sigh. I didn't expect you to end up like this. It doesn't matter, let them be. Chen Guang said casually, and then did not say anything else. He frowned slightly and fell into deep thought, as if he was thinking about something. Seeing him like this, Chu Zijin sighed in her heart. She actually felt that it was not worth it for Chen Guang. No matter what he did, no matter how unreasonable his behavior was, if it weren't for his crazy devotion, the Shiyu society wouldn't have had this kind of attention. At most, it would have been able to occupy a headline in social news. But so far, other than a profit of more than 30 million, which was not worth praising to him, he had not received anything. If either Butler or Park Chung-nam achieved good results, Chen Guang might even suffer a heavy loss. So what are you after? Chu Zijin tilted her head and looked curiously at the side of Chen Guang's face, trying to see through his thoughts. You must have realized that the situation is not good, right? What do you plan to do? After today's competition, what kind of storm will be waiting for you? No matter how he performed today, it seemed unlikely that he would be able to turn the tide of public opinion on the internet and in the language world. If he lost, it would prove that he had cheated before. If he won, it would prove that he had cheated before, and that he had cheated even more crazily today. Whether he won or lost, it would be useless. As the saying goes, water can carry a boat, but it can also race a boat. Cough cough, it can also capsize a boat. Chen Guang, you started off as an internet celebrity, but now that you have been courting death for a long time, you have completely lost the limelight in public opinion. You can't take back what you have done. Your success is due to the netizens, and your downfall is also due to the netizens. At this moment, Chen Guang suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes lit up, and a strange smile appeared on his face. What did you think of? Chu Zijin hurriedly asked, wondering if he had a solution. With a grin, Chen Guang responded, It's nothing much. I intend to change the competition rules later. This is not good, right? The PK debate system and the scoring system of the judges have been used for many years. This is the finals, and we can't use the same method of answering questions. Chu Zijin exclaimed. Chen Guang shook his head. Who said that I want to cancel the PK debate? I just want to change the single elimination system. Change to what? Change it to me alone and debate with the 92 of you. What? Chapter 873. Chu Zijin stared at Chen Guang with her eyes and mouth wide open. She was speechless for a long time. She was stunned. She felt that as a genius, she did not care about anything. Live broadcasting was just for fun, and she did not like to communicate with the comments online. She was probably considered a relatively arrogant and maverick person. When Chen Guang appeared, she quickly became a fan of Chen Guang. It was also because she felt that he was a bit like her, and he was even more monstrous than her. When she saw the bad news about him on the internet, she used the pen name Chu Hanjia to write articles to defend him. In order to write articles related to him, Chu Zijin spent a lot of time looking for clues related to him on the internet. She organized the things he had done in the past, and thought that she had a good understanding of this person's character. But after interacting with him for a few days, although it was not a long time, in Chu Zijin's heart, Chen Guang's image and character could be said to have changed dramatically. Of course, he fell from the sky to the ground in an instant. It was undeniable that this person was indeed very talented. But there were times when he was simply unreasonable, like a child. She had to say something good about him. His mental state could be called overconfidence. To put it bluntly, it was ignorant, inexplicable, and ridiculously childish. She was quite disappointed. At first, she really thought that he had enough real talent to support a considerable degree of competitiveness in this competition. But as time went on, Chu Zijin's thoughts gradually changed. When someone said that Chen Guang cheated, she would not believe it. When some people said that Chen Guang cheated, she was shaken. When the whole world said that Chen Guang cheated, not only did he not give any explanation, but he also became more and more unreasonable. When he crushed all his opponents in the competition, she gradually accepted this statement in her heart. Although she did not realize it herself, and did not think that she had been shaken, she still did her best to complete her work as a host. And even now, she was worried for Chen Guang. Deep in her heart, she didn't want to see Chen Guang suffer. But in this matter, deep in her heart, she had indeed acknowledged Chen Guang's cheating. But now he actually said that he wanted to debate with 92 people at the same time? Are you kidding me? This was a competition watched by the entire world, not a child's play. Why can you do whatever you want? How could you trample on the rules of the competition like that? I don't care, but what right do you have to make the other contestants go crazy with you? Aren't you humiliating me? Besides, where did you get your confidence from? At this time, the female host on the other side had already finished the opening remarks of the final and was ready to announce that the competition had begun to enter the random drawing stage. In this round of drawing lots, 2 contestants would be randomly chosen to fight against each other. First, the 2 contestants had to report how many languages they knew and complete a question and answer session with the judges. Then they would debate on the overlapping languages they knew. The judges would analyze their mastery of the overlapping languages based on their performance in the debate and grade them accordingly. Finally, the various performances of the contestants were taken into account, and the final score was compared. The contestant with the lowest score would be eliminated. It sounded complicated, but the principle was actually very simple. The more proficient one was in using a language, the faster one's thinking would be when communicating with others. For example, when Chinese people argued with others in Chinese, the smarter ones could argue for 10 minutes without repeating the same language. But for the same person, even if he had passed CET 10 in English, he would still be unable to think of new words to argue with his international friends in English. He would even often get stuck in his own language. For such a high-level competition, it was naturally impossible to use the method of shouting and cursing. Therefore, the judges would appoint a debate topic at the last minute and let the 2 contestants debate on the spot. Moreover, the judges would suddenly ask for a change of language during the debate. At this time, the contestants' vocabulary, proficiency in using language, and the depth of their language mastery would show obvious differences. For example, in Chinese language, "You are so stupid" was much more cultured than "you idiot." "Your mother is here" was much more accented than directly saying that someone's mother was dead. Similar situations existed not only in Chinese, but in other languages as well, achieving the same result through different means. Ladies and gentlemen, next, we will use the method of drawing lots on the spot to select the first group of PK contestants. In order to strive for fairness, this round of the finals will use the method of drawing lots. Now there were 2 transparent glass boxes, which contained ping-pong balls numbered 1 to 93. The method of drawing lots is to take out the table tennis balls from the first box first, and then from the second box. If the numbers of the 2 table tennis balls are not the same, the 2 contestants will be invited to the stage for PK. If the numbers of the 2 table tennis balls are the same, a new number will be drawn from the second box. If the number in the first box belongs to the contestant who has already competed, a new number will be drawn. Next, let's welcome the president of the Chinese Language Association, Huang. With a stiff smile on his face, Huang Changming stood up from the VIP seats and walked to the stage step by step. He really wanted to dig a hole in the ground and crawl into it. He would come out 30 years later to embarrass himself. But he had no choice. He was the head of the competition organizer, and he had to stand up. He even had to pretend to be very happy with a smile on his face. This last-minute decision to use the table tennis lottery, which was similar to the national lottery, was also his deathbed struggle. Until now, he still did not know how Chen Guang had done it. But when it comes to a computer program, no matter how magnanimous you are, the results will always be criticized by others. I'm using a table tennis ball to draw lots live under the eyes of the whole world's audience. I can't possibly make a mistake, right? You can't say that Chen Guang bribed all the other 92 contestants, can you? Everyone was here for the 100 million grand prize. They were all strong and confident that they had a good chance. It was impossible to bribe all 92 contestants. At this time, a loud voice suddenly came from the stage. Wait a minute. I have something to say. Everyone, including the host, turned their eyes to the source of the voice. Huang Changming's legs trembled, and he almost fell to the ground. The camera under the control of the director shook, and finally, it seemed to be very reluctant to turn around. There were up to 20 million viewers in Bamboo's live broadcast room, and nearly 100 million viewers in all the channels around the world. They all looked at the face on the computer or mobile phone screen, and a huge question mark suddenly appeared in their minds. You seem to be making me laugh. Chu Zijin, who was standing next to Chen Guang, silently covered her face with her hands. He really did it. So embarrassing, so shameful. Stay away from him. And don't let others find out that I am familiar with him. Yu Hong and the others below the stage wailed in unison. Vosh Chen was going to do something big. Huang Changming was really about to cry. Big brother, at this time, what do you want to do? Mr. Chen, what can I do for you? Huang Changming cautiously asked. Chen Guang smiled. I think it's too troublesome. Ah, too troublesome? Huang Changming and the host asked together. Chen Guang nodded. Yes. If it was any other contestant who interrupted the normal drawing process in public, the judges could immediately announce that he was disqualified and send him to the plane. But Chen Guang was different. Apart from the fact that he was the sponsor of the competition, he was almost the focus of all the topics and attention of the entire World Language Society. He was a very special existence. Yesterday, he had also flipped out in public, and the judges knew how powerful he was. If they said that they wanted to disqualify him, he would directly withdraw his investment and break up. Who could they find to reason with? Wait, he felt that it was too troublesome. Could it be that he finally thought that he had enough and wanted to withdraw from the competition? Huang Changming's eyes suddenly lit up, thinking that it was not impossible. Of course, he knew that the matter had become like this. Whether Chen Guang withdrew from the competition or not, it would not help his own reputation, but it was a great thing for him. Huang Changming tentatively asked, Mr. Chen, then what is your plan? At this moment, the other experts and scholars, including the president of the World Language Society, also thought of this point. Although they wanted to see him embarrass himself in the competition, this was also the highest academic forum of the World Language Society. It was already tragic enough that he had caused such a farce. It might not be a good thing for him to turn into a bomb on the competition stage and detonate it. Therefore, they did not stand up to question him, and allowed Chen Guang to interrupt him. As for the other participants, they wanted to humiliate Chen Guang when they encountered him. However, when they thought about how they still had to collect the prize money from him, they decided to endure it for now. Even if they wanted to scold him, they could only do so after the competition ended and collect the prize money. However, there were always people who did not believe it. For example, Park Chung-nam was the first to jump out and said in standard Mandarin, Chen Guang, have you had enough? Although others were unhappy with Chen Guang, they would still give him some face. However, Park Chung-nam, who had a bet with him, did not have such thoughts at all. At this point, it was impossible for Chen Guang to do anything to him. He also wanted the competition to start quickly. It would be best if he and Chen Guang were drawn together, so that he could humiliate him. In addition to being able to easily move forward in the elimination mode finals, more importantly, he would be able to chase away this clown who had tarnished the academic world. He would then become a hero, who defended the dignity of the international language world. Butler Guy also jumped out. That's right, you're disrupting the competition. I think there's no need to draw lots for the first group. It'll just be you and me. Chen Guang, do you dare? Chen Guang was stunned at first, then he grinned. You're asking me if I dare? Of course I dare. However, may I ask the judges if we can challenge someone in the finals like this? The judges were stunned at first, and then they started whispering to each other. I don't think I've encountered such a thing before. There has never been such a crazy person like Chen Guang in the past. What do we do now? The rules didn't explicitly mention this issue. Everyone, I think we can agree to Butler's request. Butler Guy isn't someone that can be bribed. He's someone that has hopes of winning the championship. Since Chen Guang has no intention of withdrawing from the competition, why don't we let Butler face him and make him lose? Even if the preliminaries and semifinals will damage our reputation, at least we'll be able to defend the dignity of academics in the finals. Wouldn't it be better for us to let the Chinese Language Association take the blame? It was the old president of the World Language Association who had such ideas. After some discussion, the old president of the World Language Association personally made the decision and said loudly, after our emergency discussion, we have decided that, with the consent of both parties, the contestants can choose their opponents and initiate a challenge. There was an uproar in the audience. This kind of competition system was, of course, unreasonable. It was simply a breeding ground for shady dealings. But it didn't matter. In order to get Chen Guang out of the competition as soon as possible, it was not a big deal to change the rules temporarily. Anyway, before today, other contestants would not have thought of this temporary challenge rule, and certainly would not have discussed it in advance. Moreover, everyone knew how troublesome this year's World Language Association was. They all understood the reason why the jury agreed to challenge the rules. They just wanted to watch the fun, and no one would really jump into the muddy water. Hearing this, Chen Guang suddenly clapped his hands. Good. What do you mean? The old president of the World Language Association was stunned at first. Butler also felt that something was wrong. Why did this guy seem so happy? Also, what did you mean by good? Did you agree? Chen Guang took a step forward and said loudly, I just said it was too troublesome, because I think this kind of round after round of elimination takes too long, too troublesome, too boring. Since the rules now allow the challenge mode, it's convenient. Not only will I accept Butler Guy's challenge, but I will also challenge others at the same time. Next, I will challenge. He paused a little. There was a brief silence in the hall. Everyone was waiting for his next words. The audience in front of their televisions, computers, and mobile phones also had a huge question mark in their minds. The World Language Association's old president heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Chen Guang's excited and dazzling face. At first he was still confused, but he quickly reacted. Something was wrong. Could it be that we have been fooled? In fact, he had already bribed most of the 93 contestants, and planned to challenge others by name, relying on others to send him to the championship step by step? But he had already agreed to Butler's challenge. Could it be that Butler was also bribed by him? Not only did the World Language Association's old president think this way, even Butler's loyal ally, Park Changnan, was shocked. He then turned his head and looked at Butler with a scrutinizing gaze. Butler, you. Butler waved his hands. What are you doing? What are you thinking? How is this possible? I can't wait to kill him, okay? On the other side, Chen Guang took a deep breath and finally spoke again. He turned around abruptly, looked at all the contestants and said loudly, I want to challenge all the contestants here. The entire world was in an uproar. You didn't hear wrongly, all the contestants. Apart from me, the other 92 contestants. I challenge all of you at the same time. Do you dare to accept? It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what language you use. If I can't answer a single question during the debate with me, I'll leave immediately and apologize to everyone here. Also, the prize pool will be doubled. My bet with Butler and Park Changnan is still in effect. The huge venue, including the countless televisions and computers, was silent. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. This is too much. You are insulting us. This time, it wasn't only Park Changnan and Park Changnan who flew into a rage. The other contestants also started shouting angrily. However, Chen Guang still had his hands behind his back and had a calm expression. That's right, I am insulting you. So it doesn't matter who it is. As long as I can't answer, I will immediately admit defeat and fulfill my promise. I will also apologize to everyone. I know that many of you want to see me make a fool of myself. Now, give me a joke in front of the entire world. Let me ask you, do you dare to accept? For the sake of one-line sky's language master statue, Chen Guang threw caution to the wind. The spring was already tight enough. It was time for it to be released instantly. Fine. I accept. Butler was the first to speak. Park Changnan also clenched his fists. I will be the first to send you off. Chu Zijin smiled bitterly and said into her earpiece. All right. Let's do it this way. Either I become his stepping stone, or I will personally send him off the stage, so that he can calm down and reflect on his sorrowful life. Chu Zijin thought so in her heart. The other 89 contestants also waved their hands excitedly. Agree. Get off the stage immediately. End this ridiculous farce. Chen Guang was still smiling. Then, he turned his head and looked at the old president of the World's Language Club calmly, before looking at Huang Changming. Fellow judges, now that all the contestants have agreed, shall we start the challenge now? Do you need to choose a topic? I alone will debate all of them. The entire world was shocked. Chapter 874. Questions. What other questions do you want? You guys can do whatever you want. After a short moment of hesitation, the old president waved his hand impatiently with a flustered and exasperated expression. Do whatever I want. Chen Guang nodded. That makes sense. After all, it's quite troublesome for me to remember all 92 questions. The others were almost speechless. 92 debates were not scientific. But it was even more troublesome and unthinkable for a total of 92 contestants to challenge at the same time, all of whom had mastered an average of more than 20 languages, all at the same time. Even if these 92 people had mastered overlapping languages, according to the World Language Association statistics from the contestant registration information, these 92 people had mastered close to 800 languages. Not to mention debates. Even if these people were to talk to you about trivial matters, your brain would still be a mess, okay? You should know your priorities. Chu Zijin and the other opponents of Chen Guang were speechless when they saw that he still didn't take it seriously. They couldn't be bothered to ridicule him anymore. Forget it, it's better to send him away quickly. The remaining 92 people could form pairs and enter the normal competition. Chu Zijin thought to herself that no matter what, she, who had mastered 33 languages, was actually a strong competitor in this competition. It was just that she didn't care about these things in the past, and she didn't have a reputation, so she was looked down upon. She didn't have a particularly strong desire to survive. Participating in this competition was originally for Chen Guang. However, letting her win was much better than letting Butler or Park Changnam win. At least Chen Guang wouldn't be seriously injured because of this competition. Forget it, I'll be more serious. After a short period of preparation, the huge stage was filled with 93 swivel chairs. One of them was in the center of the stage. This was Chen Guang's seat, and the other 92 people's chairs were arranged in a circle. At this time, the people watching the live broadcast with VR equipment at home were very happy. Thanks to the new technology, there was even Chen Guang's perspective. Chen Guang, who was sitting on the swivel chair, looked up at the camera above his head. Chen Guang was also speechless. Forget it, just leave it at that. Due to the impromptu adjustments to the competition, a simple adjustment has been made to the rules of the competition. In challenge mode, other than Chen Guang, the other contestants have a responder in their hands. The contestant who presses the responder first can choose any topic to communicate with Chen Guang. The contestant will ask a question first, and Chen Guang will answer. Each contestant's time to ask a question cannot exceed 30 seconds. Chen Guang's time to think is not more than 30 seconds. Chen Guang must use the same language as the questioner. After each contestant completes a question and answer session, they will enter the queue and wait for the other contestants to finish their questions before continuing to the second round of the question and answer session. In addition, during the question and answer session, contestants are not allowed to use a language that has already been used by other contestants or the contestant themselves. There will be a prompt on the answer board in front of each contestant. Each contestant's performance in the challenge mode question and answer session will be immediately scored by the judges. This score will affect each contestant's ranking in the next round. The female host stood beside Chen Guang and announced to the other contestants. Although there was no possibility of a second round, she added in her heart. After taking a breather and letting the contestants digest the new rules, the female host asked again, "May I ask if anyone has any objections to the impromptu adjustment of the rules?" "No objections." "Sure." Park Chung-nam teased. "All right, let's start now. There's no second round, and I don't think there's a need to score because there's no second round at all. If everyone can't even ask a question once, what's the point of scoring?" After saying that, he looked around proudly, hoping to see two people in the crowd who would support him. Unfortunately, no one cared about him. It wasn't easy to quickly end this farce. The others even felt that staying on stage for another second was an insult to themselves. Now, everyone just wanted to end it as soon as possible and didn't want any more accidents to happen because of the provocation. Since no one has any objections, then the special segment of this year's World Language Conference, the question and answer session that Chen Guang will challenge all 92 contestants at the same time, will now begin. The female host said loudly, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Then, she quickly turned around and left the stage, leaving the remaining time to the contestants. Standing beside Chen Guang, the pressure on her was actually quite great. The beeping sound of the countdown constantly echoed in the huge venue, just like the countdown before a bomb was detonated. Chu Zijin placed her finger on the answer board and focused her gaze. Because no matter what she did, it was always too easy to reach the peak. In her young life, she rarely had such a serious moment. This was the problem of a genius. Such a person's heart was always wandering. But this time, she wanted to personally send Chen Guang off. In his first question he said, "Don't let anyone else humiliate me." After all, he was someone she once admired and worshipped. She didn't want to see him in such a sorry state. Let's end this laughable farce. I hope you can recover from today's setback and regroup. When that time comes, I will worship you once again. However, Chen Guang was also looking at Chu Zijin. He could feel that over the past few days, the thick thread of faith value above Chu Zijin's head had become much thinner. It was even faintly discernible to the point that it was about to break. Fortunately, his various types of faith value had already reached the maximum. Even if her faith value output had decreased, there wouldn't be too much of a difference. "Little girl, your faith is still not pious enough. Then today, let me help you consolidate it." Ding! With a loud sound, the question and answer challenge officially began. Contestant number 77, Chu Zijin, please ask your question. The female host below the stage said loudly. Chu Zijin stood up, her face carrying an unprecedented seriousness. How could it be her? Isn't she friends with Brother All-Rounder? Is Miss Chu going to put righteousness before family? No, she definitely wants to throw the game. But what's the use of that? The bullet screen in Chen Guang's live broadcast room immediately began to discuss in various ways. The other contestants also turned their heads to look at Chu Zijin in unison, a teasing smile on their faces. Butler muttered, "What a joke. What's the point of struggling like this? It will only make this matter even more comical." Park Chung-nam stomped his foot in exasperation. This Chinese girl's reaction was too fast. She actually beat him to it. Forget it. You can only extend your life by one more second at most. "Mr. Chen, I'm going to ask a question." Chu Zijin ignored the strange looks from the others and spoke slowly in Mandarin. Chen Guang nodded. Okay. He also had a faint smile on his face, making it hard for others to see through his thoughts. "I didn't expect you to be the first person. Please don't throw the game and disappoint me. %yen %and %#%. In the next moment, Chu Zijin quickly uttered a series of strange sounds. Butler and the other contestants were stunned. The language Chu Zijin used was very unique. They actually couldn't understand it. She didn't throw the game? What's going on? About 10 seconds later, Chu Zijin nodded at the camera and the host. I'm done with my question. Then she planned to sit down. She was waiting for Chen Guang to reveal a pained expression. Then this farce would be completely over. Unexpectedly, before her but even touched the chair, Chen Guang suddenly opened his mouth. #and #yen %. It was another series of strange sounds that ordinary people couldn't understand. However, Chu Zijin's originally confident expression instantly froze. She opened her mouth slightly, unable to hide her surprise. Chen Guang answered, "How is this possible?" Ordinary people naturally couldn't understand what had happened. However, there were some among the judges who were knowledgeable. They also had a look of disbelief on their faces. What did the two of them say just now? Huang Changming turned his head and asked the person behind him. According to the information on his side, Chu Zijin had just spoken a language called Bramila. It belonged to a province in South Africa. About 3 million people spoke this language, and the person behind him was a linguist from South Africa. I'll stand up and explain directly. The judge picked up the microphone and slowly stood up. The first round of the question and answer challenge, Chen Guang passes. Contestant 77 just used Bramila, and there are about 3 million speakers. Just now, she said a very famous proverb in this language. In Chinese, the gist is as follows. If you pray in your heart every night before you go to bed, you will definitely see the sun the next day. This is the first half of what contestant 77 said. Chen Guang answered the second half of the proverb. The gist is but wild wolves can't understand human prayers. So all the clansmen must take turns to protect our home. The pronunciation of the two contestants is very accurate, especially Chen Guang. He used a special grammar that only the elders of the clan can use. The huge venue was instantly in an uproar. Butler and the others rolled their eyes in disdain. It was indeed as they had guessed. This Chinese girl was throwing the game. The two of them had colluded long ago. Too shameless, too despicable. Feeling the questioning gazes from all directions, Chu Zijin's lips trembled, but she did not try to defend herself. At this time, it was useless to say anything. In fact, she was even more surprised than the others. What was going on? She had chosen the extremely difficult Bramila language from the start. But why could he answer it without even thinking? Moreover, his pronunciation was even more accurate than hers. He had caused others to think that she had cooperated with him to cheat. But that was not the case at all. The countdown sounded again, and the question and answer session continued. This time, Butler and Park Changnam did not succeed in answering. Instead, another language genius from Australia, an awakened from the Broca area, succeeded. It was still a long string of strange pronunciations that ordinary people could not understand, and he even said it for a full 30 seconds. But this time, Chen Guang's reaction was faster. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Guang quickly answered. Contestant 39 is right. The biggest enemy of the Withram tribe isn't the Barabar tribe on the other side of the mountain, nor is it the extinct Odolan tribe. What Chen Guang said is right. The enemy is never others but ourselves. Only a bison that lets down its guard will be ambushed by a lion. The strongest cattle in the herd will always be on guard. This is a language passed down among the indigenous tribes of Australia. Today, there are less than 200,000 people who know it, and it will soon disappear. Two members of the World Language Association from Australia, members of the competition's panel of judges, stood up and explained. Everyone could see the shock and confusion on their faces, but the truth was that Chen Guang had indeed answered the question. The awakened from the Broca area who had asked the question was still bowing. He was about to sit down when he was suddenly caught off guard. It was obvious that he was very puzzled. This time, the audience was in an uproar again. Perhaps this person had also been bribed by Chen Guang? It was the third time to answer. This time, Park Changnan was the first to press down on the answer board. under the watchful eyes of countless people. He took a deep breath and thought to himself, "You said it yourself. If you get one question wrong, you will lose immediately. I don't believe you even know a dialect that only 8,000 people know." 40 seconds later, he stood there with a pale face. That's right, Chen Guang had answered the question. Before he could even finish his sentence, Chen Guang had already given him the answer he wanted. The 4th question, the 5th question, the 38th question, the 56th question. After about half an hour, the conference room of the East City Convention and Exhibition Center was still silent. However, this silence was completely different from before. Everyone's mouths were wide open as they stared blankly at the man on the swivel chair. As he had said, he was challenging them all by himself. No matter who it was, no matter what language they used, he just sat on the swivel chair and kept turning his body. Then, without hesitation, he conversed with these people in a language that was completely unrelated to them. All of this seemed so calm, like a group of people sitting together and having a simple tea party. But the fact was, this was the highest stage in the world of linguistics. Every sentence he said was in a different language. Yet, every time he opened his mouth, he spoke so skillfully, just like how he bragged on the internet. It was like his mother tongue. Whether others used a proverb, a short story, or a complicated tongue twister, he was always able to come up with something. Did he really bribe everyone? Everyone knew that it was impossible. So, what did this phenomenon mean? No one was willing to accept this unbelievable reality, but it was right in front of everyone. Chen Guang had indeed mastered all kinds of languages, and each of them was like his mother tongue. How did you do it? Where did you get so much energy from? Are you still human? Your day isn't only 24 hours, right? It should be 72 hours, right? Where did you learn so many different languages? No, if I remember correctly, the number he wrote on the answer board yesterday was 4,978. Does that mean that he really knows 4,978 languages? Could it be true? What a terrifying thing. Chu Zijin had been sitting quietly in her chair. Since the first person to answer, she sat in the crowd and quietly watched as Chen Guang chatted with every contestant who rushed to answer the question. She didn't know why, but her heart, which was about to turn cold, gradually began to beat wildly again. Her blood began to slowly heat up again. She knew what kind of state this was. Her fighting spirit began to burn. If everything you said is true, I am willing to be a witness to history, just like all the people who fell at your feet in the past. If she didn't see it with her own eyes, she would never have thought that there was such a shocking genius in the world. So the limits of human beings are so terrifying? Everyone thought that Chen Guang would have to pack up and leave in a few minutes at most. But the fact was, after about an hour and a half, he was still sitting on the chair with a calm face. Although the other 92 contestants had only asked one question so far, all of them were sweating profusely, and their faces were pale. Unknowingly, the number of online viewers in Chen Guang's live broadcast room had exceeded 25 million, and the total number of viewers in the 5 major channels had also exceeded 130 million. It was completely different from the past few days. Today until now, no one was scolding him while watching the live broadcast. The bullet screen in the live broadcast room was full of countless ellipses, or 666, or invincible, or XX asked me why I kneel to play on the computer, XX asked me why I kneel to play on the phone, and so on. 92 languages, this was not his limit. The competition was still going on, and there were at least 6 or 7 hours left. The audience called their friends, asking others to quickly come and witness this incredible moment with them, and at the same time, to improve their posture. What else in this world was more interesting than watching a show? They could only watch a show that could not be reproduced. Wife, come and see a god. Husband, come and see God. Dear David, come and watch TV. Is this man going to rule the world? I used to be an atheist until today. From now on, I worship this language god named Chen Guang. I can't understand how he did it at all. Even now, I don't want to believe it is a fact. But maybe there is something different about his body structure. I heard that there are some special institutions in China that capture such people for research? Are you kidding me? He is a billionaire. On the stage, there was no expression of joy on Chen Guang's face. After being extremely high profile, he suddenly became deep again. He was looking down at the 92 languages that had been completed on the answer board. He sighed slightly. Sigh, it's still early. Everyone, hurry up and try to finish it before it gets dark. I am very busy. That's right. According to the temporary rules, he really intended to answer the other 92 people until they had nothing to ask. The second round of the competition was about to begin. Once again, Chu Zijin snatched first place. But the outcome this time was no different from the previous times. Her questions did not stump Chen Guang at all. She sat back on the chair softly, her mind numb, and did not know what to say. She could even foresee the scene when the competition ended in the afternoon, when the sun set. That would be the moment when someone ascended to the altar out of thin air. Chapter 875. Unknowingly, the finals started at 9:30 in the morning, and the time slowly went to 11 o'clock sharp. Except for Chen Guang and Chu Zijin, all the contestants had a look of horror on their faces. Even if this had become a fact in front of everyone, even if in the question and answer challenge, Chen Guang had used his irrefutable performance to tell everyone that what they knew, he knew, and what he knew, they didn't necessarily know. But many people still couldn't accept this reality. They felt that they were dreaming, that all of this was an illusion. Perhaps when they woke up, they would find that the sky was not bright yet, and the competition had not officially started. This was all a dream. But the fact was that the question and answer challenge was still going on. At the beginning, everyone was rushing to ask questions, but gradually, everyone's mood was not so enthusiastic. Everyone followed the instructions on the answer board and took out their own trump card that no one else had used. But it was useless. Chen Guang still answered without thinking. It was as if he never needed to think. The number of people in the live broadcast room was still rising. In recent days, although the ratings of major TV programs had reached new highs, and the number of people online for the live broadcast of Bamboo and Twitch was also constantly breaking records, only a few people had actually watched the live broadcast. Many people saw the news related to the World Language Club on social media sites, such as Weibo or Twitter, and then saw the news reported by those media people, marketing accounts, or current review media. Then these people followed others in the comment section and fiercely criticized Chen Guang's performance. Although they knew about this matter and understood it on a certain level, because of one reason or another, they were not interested in watching the competition directly. At first, these people did not intend to watch today's finals directly. Even if they thought with their toes, they knew that either that person was really shameless enough to bribe the whole competition and turn it into a complete farce, or what was waiting for him was to leave with his tail between his legs. When something lost its sense of expectation, these people who regarded the World Language Club and Chen Guang as dispensable were even less interested in watching the competition. But now, all of a sudden, the real-time reports about this match instantly flooded the screen. Whether it was social media or media information apps, or these people's circle of friends, QQ groups, WeChat groups, or other chat software groups, in offices or classrooms, or even in public restrooms, every corner of the world was talking about this competition. These people were curious and thought to themselves, why don't we take a look? Therefore, these people who came from all over the world and spoke a variety of languages casually turned on the TV or clicked on the live broadcast with the thought that it wouldn't hurt them to watch it. Then they couldn't get away. At first, they only saw Chen Guang using all kinds of strange languages to chat with the other contestants in a circle, so they didn't think much of it. They even wondered if there was something wrong with the competition being so calm. But when they slowly understood the temporary rules of the question and answer challenge, they were completely dumbfounded. God, this program was toxic. Boss, let me take a day off. Boss, listen to my explanation. This TV show is too scary. I really wasn't slacking off during work. Boss, How come you're starting to look like that? That was basically the rhythm of the entire online world. Finally, it was noon. At this time, Chen Guang had already displayed the ability to speak more than 150 languages. In the short span of a morning, he had already broken the highest record in human history. In order to ensure the fairness and authority of the entire competition, the panel of judges even changed the rules once again. In the middle, they specially took out 10 minutes to check the languages that Chen Guang had used in the question and answer challenge with the other contestants. They let the two of them have 3 simple conversations that lasted more than 3 minutes in the same language. Of course, there were no problems with the results. Chen Guang discussed the recent U.S. election in Heslet, which only 300 people in the world knew. He discussed the recent scandal of the South Korean president in Kookisnut, which only 3,000 people knew. He also discussed the refugee problem in Germany with people in Caucasian. All the tests and challenges were not a problem for him. To others, switching languages was like facing a formidable enemy, but to him, it was like chatting after a meal. It was easy and casual. On the contrary, the other contestants who were randomly checked to communicate with him were stuttering. It was not that their level was not up to standard, but they were simply too nervous. This feeling was like when humans faced a god. They were respectful and humble from the bottom of their hearts. Even though today, Chen Guang was no longer arrogant and always had a spring breeze-like smile on his face, the oppressive feeling he gave off was even stronger. The reason was very simple. He no longer needed to use words to show his ability. Every word he said, and every word he spat out was a miracle to the world. After a short break at noon, the competition continued at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the third round of the question and answer challenge was completed, 300 languages. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the fourth round of the question and answer challenge was completed, 370 languages. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the fifth round of the question and answer challenge was completed, 460 languages. Unknowingly, he had challenged 92 people at the same time in the question and answer challenge, and it had already reached the sixth round. The most unacceptable thing was that up until now, he did not show any signs of fatigue. Anyone who had learned a foreign language knew that when communicating with people in a language that was not their mother tongue, no matter how good they were at it, it would still consume more energy than usual because of the switch in their thinking patterns. But what about him? Every sentence was different. He had been chatting with people for a full 6 hours, but he did not show any signs of fatigue. He just drank a lot of water and went to the toilet several times. I'm sorry, I withdraw from the next question and answer challenge, and I also withdraw from this competition. I lost. At this moment, one of the finalists suddenly raised his hand and said he was the first contestant to announce his withdrawal from the competition. The others turned to look at him. In fact, they all knew the reason, but they could not bear to ask him. The female host, who did not know what was going on, quickly stood up from her chair. Contestant number 63, may I ask why you want to withdraw from the competition? The contestant's face changed slightly, revealing a painful expression. Then, he took a deep breath, looked at Chen Guang with fear, and said helplessly, although I know as many as 33 languages, they are all relatively common. In the previous question and answer challenge, all the languages I know have been used once. I can't ask any questions. Regardless of whether Mr. Chen can really answer all the other contestants in the next round, regardless of whether Mr. Chen may be eliminated, my self-discipline as a scholar makes me too ashamed to continue to stay on this stage. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry. I apologize for my previous teasing of you in my heart. As he said that, he simply raised the answer board in his hand, showing the large number of gray icons on the answer board, which meant that he could not choose to the audience. Then, he bowed to Chen Guang, who was sitting in the middle, and then turned around and left without looking back, leaving an empty swivel chair. 2 drops of crystal-clear tears silently fell on the smooth glass floor of the stage. The well-known linguist from Belgium shed tears on the stage. Wow! There was an immediate uproar in the venue. Before this morning, no one thought that the finals would turn out like this. No one thought that Chen Guang could actually debate with someone for 6 hours and use 460 languages. For a whole 6 hours, he did not have the slightest bit of hesitation, nor did he stutter. He was always at his fingertips, always using the most precise vocabulary and the most perfect pronunciation to answer his opponent's questions. Even when his opponent could not understand his vocabulary, he could even write down the language on the answer board on the spot and give a live lecture. This was a stage where almost all the language geniuses of the human race were gathered. Everyone on this stage, no matter how noble or despicable they were, no matter how old they were or how young they were, there was no doubt that none of them, who could pass through the layers of preliminaries to get on this stage, were mediocre. But Chen Guang sat on the fishing platform with the posture of a king, debating with 100 heroes. This was the most incredible 6 hours in human history. No one knew how he did it. And no one thought that the human brain had such a terrifying capacity. There had been studies in the past that said that the human brain might be less than 10% developed. This view might not be completely correct, but there were indeed many blank areas in the brain. There was no doubt about that. The appearance of Chen Guang seemed to have opened a new door for everyone. There was no doubt that the potential of human beings was far from reaching its limit. Where everyone could see, that man was sitting there, and he represented the new world. There was no need to think about how he did it. They only needed to know that it was already a fact. Everyone understood that they were witnessing an incredible feat now. Finally, there was the first scholar who fell behind. But everyone knew that if Chen Guang did not make a mistake and continued this question and answer challenge, there would be more and more people falling behind. Sure enough, the question and answer challenge continued. At first, on average, every few minutes, someone would stand up and announce their withdrawal. Later, the frequency of contestants withdrawing became higher and higher. Almost every time Chen Guang showed a language, one or several contestants would stand up and leave the field together. The more it went, the more common languages were used up. The languages that Chen Guang and the other contestants showed became more and more uncommon. At 5 o'clock, the 6th round was completed. At 6 o'clock, the 7th round was completed. At this moment, Chen Guang had shown 644 languages. There was no repetition at all. Including Chu Zijin, Butler, and Pu Tsangnan, there were only 31 contestants left on the stage. Chu Zijin looked at the last 2 green languages left on her answer board, and she was silent. Her heart was beating faster than ever. It was hard for others to understand her feelings, only she understood. As a genius who once thought that she was invincible in the world, when she saw another realm of human beings, how excited would she be? Chen Guang, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I might have thought that I was already outstanding enough. I also want to thank this era. If it wasn't for people like you being born in this era, I might still be immersed in this kind of arrogant, yet mediocre life for the rest of my life. Compared to you, I am as ordinary as a grain of sand on the beach. From now on in my heart, you are the goal that I want to chase after. Perhaps I might not be able to catch up to your back in my life, but it doesn't matter. As long as I can still see the footprints you left on the ground and run towards you step by step, I will definitely reach the peak of my life. I will definitely not let this life of mine be wasted. Chapter 876. Butler and Pu Tsangnan had a bitter expression on their faces. At this moment, there was only one language that they could choose from on the answer board. From morning until now, it had been close to 9 hours of fierce battle. Everyone was racking their brains to think of what kind of questions they could use to make Chen Guang unable to answer them. What kind of unpopular and niche language did he have to use to make this guy stumble? They really didn't dare to ask for more. Everyone knew that he was fully deserving of being the strongest in the world, and no one could be compared to him. However, they themselves, even now, they still didn't understand what was going on in this world. They had lost without any temper. No, we don't belong to the same world. Maybe we are not even the same species. No, we humans are 3-dimensional creatures. Maybe this guy, Chen Guang, is a four-dimensional creature. We are living in different dimensions. How can we compare with you? 6:30 a.m. Chu Zijing used the Xixia language that had been completely lost and only existed in her family's ancient books. Only 5 archaeologists in the world could barely understand a little bit of it. She asked, under the situation where our lifespan is limited, how can humans surpass their own limits? Chen Guang answered, believe that you can do it unconditionally. Then, run toward the person you want to become, and never stop. Even if you fall on the road, you can still let your life burn with a dazzling brilliance. Humans are never individuals that exist alone. Regardless of whether they are geniuses or mediocre people, they are all part of the long history of humanity. Humans as a whole have always been surpassing their own limits. But as far as an individual is concerned, they have always been living within the limits of humanity. Chu Zijin asked, what about you? Chen Guang answered, I have already answered your question, but for your sake, I will say one more sentence. I am also a human, but the meaning of my existence is to let you people see another realm of humanity. Are you a god? You can interpret it however you want. Chu Zijin stood up abruptly and said to the panel of judges, my question is over. Just now, I used the long-lost Xixia language. Thank you, judges and all the audience. I withdraw from the competition. However, she did not leave. Instead, she sat back on the chair. With a flushed face, she looked at Chen Guang with a smile. No one knew what she was thinking. However, Chen Guang saw through her thoughts from the sudden change in the faith value threads above her head. Her faith thread did not grow thicker. Instead, it quickly changed color. A faint emerald green thread slowly floated out from her forehead and went straight into the Holy Grail in her hand. After Xuelin, he had gained a new fanatic. He closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. The smile on his face grew wider. You're amazing, my sister. Chu Zijin's faith output was even higher than Xuelin's, reaching 2,333 units per day. It should be known that fanatics were not restricted by the upper limit of the world deity statue in the Holy Grail. This meant that his faith output had increased by 2,333 units. Of course, when he thought about the world deity statue in the Holy Grail, this output was not that great. The real gain was not the faith value, but the cute girl. The cute girl who was a fanatic. Just thinking about it made him feel good. Mr. Butler, Mr. Park, please prepare for the first answer. The female host, who had been working hard for the whole day, was almost exhausted. However, at this time, she regained her composure and returned to the stage with a face full of excitement. There was no other reason. There were only 2 people left on the stage. The other 90 contestants had all withdrawn from the competition. Huang Changming turned to the old president of the World Language Association beside him and asked in puzzlement, although Butler and Park Kangnam are famous scholars, I have never heard of them being much stronger than the other awakened ones from the Broca region. Why are the 2 of them sitting at the end? The old president scratched his remaining hair. I don't know either. Perhaps their knowledge has improved during this time? At this time, the countdown for the first answer rang again. Butler and Pu Tsungnan looked at each other in dismay. In the end, it was Butler who was thin-skinned and stood up with a red face. Sorry, I have no more questions. With him taking the lead, Park Tsungnan also stood up. Me too. As he said that, he showed his answer board. As expected, it was a patch of gray. The female host could not control her temper for a moment. Then the 2 of you should have withdrawn from the competition. Butler's lips trembled slightly. However, Park Tsungnan argued. No one said that we have to withdraw from the competition. All right. The competition is over. The others have all withdrawn. The first, second, and third place will naturally be among the 3 of us. Chen Guang was stunned. No wonder these 2 did not leave when they should. They were still thinking of this. What wishful thinking. However, in the previous 7.5 rounds of the question and answer challenge, the judges must have given each contestant a good score, right? Who would be so shameless to sit at the end and be in the top 3? Then I will find 2 pigs and tie them to your chairs. These 2 pigs can also be in the top 3. Get lost. Chen Guang did not give Park Tsungnan any chance to be sly. He waved his hand and said impolitely. The two were hesitant and did not want to leave. However, Chen Guang suddenly grinned and said, "The two of you, did you forget something? The question and answer challenge has been going on for an entire day. Have the two of you been too busy?" Pooh Bah and Park Sung-nan were stunned for a moment. Then, an image appeared in their minds. Then, they remembered the contract they signed on the black and white paper. Both of their faces turned pale in an instant. Chen Guang looked at their faces and knew that they finally remembered the bet. He said, "It seems that you have not lost your memory. Very good. However, even if you have lost your memory, it doesn't matter. The contract can help you recover your memory. It doesn't matter if you are the second or third place. This prize money has nothing to do with you. On behalf of the Lou Gehrig's disease, I thank the two of you." This time, Pooh Bah and Park Sung-nan completely gave up. They recalled the day of the academic conference. At that time, they thought that Chen Guang was being unreasonable. Now they understood. This guy had been planning this for a long time. Okay, don't make a fool of yourself. Butler, you two go down. Mr. Chen is right. The ranking of the competition still depends on the score. The World Language Society's old president's lips trembled. He slowly stood up and said with a trembling voice. Everyone could see how excited he was at this time. It was unknown whether the old president was angry because of Butler and Park Sung-nan's incompetence, or because he had witnessed the whole process of Chen Guang's apotheosis. Park Sung-nan and Butler blushed and hurriedly ran down the stage. The old president sorted out his emotions and looked at Chen Guang with a complicated expression. After pondering for a long time, he finally said in a clear voice, "This year's World Language Conference competition has ended successfully. The champion is Chen Guang, who has mastered 707 languages. Congratulations." Chen Guang waved his hand. "Sorry, you're wrong. It's 4,978 languages." The same words came out of his mouth, but this time, no one doubted its authenticity. Everyone felt that as long as he was given enough time and didn't find it troublesome, he would be able to perform 4,978 languages on the stage one after another. The old president took a deep breath. Not bad. The champion is Chen Guang, who has mastered 4,978 languages. In the entire Dongqing Convention and Exhibition Center, thousands of live audience cheered thunderously. The audience in front of the TV and computers also couldn't help but stand up and applaud. Chen Guang stood up from the swivel chair and walked firmly to the edge of the stage. He didn't bow to anyone like the other contestants. This was a competition that he had used his own money and personal influence to operate bit by bit. Using this competition, many people, including the Wuxia Language Association and the World Language Association, could earn a lot of money. Chen Guang knew that it was because of his unrequited investment, whether it was money or fame, that the World Language Conference had become what it was today. There was no need for him to belittle himself. This is the throne I built for myself. I don't need to thank anyone. If he had to thank someone, it wouldn't be these people in front of him, but the heavenly Holy Grail and the glass in it. As for now, it was time to enjoy the glory that belonged to him. Chen Guang could feel that the heavenly Holy Grail behind him was undergoing an incredible change. From the heads of the thousands of audience in front of him, from the heads of every member of the judging panel, from the heads of every contestant, and from so far away that he couldn't see it with the naked eye, countless pure white threads of faith were surging toward the heavenly Holy Grail behind him. At this moment, it was as if the color of the sky had changed. When the deity statue of the one-line heavenly Holy Grail was born, the movement between heaven and earth was stronger than ever before. He was the only one who could see this phenomenon. No one could understand the excitement in his heart at this moment. Chen Guang clenched his fists tightly and raised his arms high, enjoying the worship of everyone in the venue to his heart's content. His hard work paid off. After putting in so many days of hard work, he had finally completely displayed the language master that he had cultivated in the sea of transient to the world, and he had received undisputed recognition. Everything was worth it. Looking at the tall figure under the light, Chu Zijin's heart thumped. She sighed in her heart. The moment she had been waiting for was finally here. Just what kind of existence was this man? In Gokyo University, Lin Jingwei and the others, who had already skipped classes for 3 days, were speechless for a long time. After a long time, 2 large words floated in the sky. F*CK. Damn it, my face hurts. The 3 grandsons and Gaoya in the dormitory all had the same thought. It wasn't hard for them to imagine how smug Chen Guang would be when he returned. No, we'd better go out and hide for a while. Otherwise, he'll definitely ride roughshod over all of us for a long time. Thinking of his self-proclaimed title of invincible prodigy, they all felt tired. Sun Xiaoshuan cupped his hands over his heart, his eyes shining so brightly that it hurt Gaoya's eyes. Wu Tong lightly tapped her fingers on the desk with a smile. Although she had already expected this moment, she still couldn't control her racing heartbeat. Tang Ying, who sat next to her, blushed and cursed. Is this guy crazy? The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. You should have kept a low profile. Do you know how many people you're going to scare to death? Wu Tong advised. It's not like we've known him for the first time. With his personality, he'll probably suffocate to death if he keeps this kind of ability to himself. Tang Ying glared at Wu Tong. You only know how to help him. You're not a medical student, so you don't understand. I bet that 50% of the doctors in the world want to dissect him and see what's going on in his head. However, Wu Tong remained silent. Chen Guang was, after all, a vice-ministerial minister in China, and he was also the chief of the Guangdong General Administration. So how could any random doctor touch him? Moreover, even if the Chinese authorities wanted to study him, they'd probably have to ask if he was willing. However, she didn't have to worry too much about this. Every era would have people who were different from ordinary people. For example, Wang Mang in ancient times, or Tesla 100 years ago. If one could really figure out the origin of a genius ability by dissecting a genius, then humans would have already left outer space. There were still countless unsolved mysteries about the human body. Wu Tong really didn't think that others would be able to figure out any secrets from Chen Guang. Those scientists weren't that obsessed. Chen Guang was no longer a nobody that anyone could touch. In the office of the Guangdong General Administration in Wujing, Xianqin said, Is Big Chrysanthemum a monster? Wu Miaowan said, I think so. A great magus can even learn something as profound as magic. What's so strange about knowing a few more languages? Xianqin said, But that's close to 5,000. Wu Miaowan pondered for a long time. There are thousands of ways in the world, but in the end they all come together? Is Director Archmage trying to learn everything without a teacher? Xianqin waved her hand indifferently. Maybe. God knows. What Chen Guang did today seemed incomprehensible. However, compared to when he used Right Chun to cast a forbidden spell to destroy the world in Dolul World, it paled in comparison. Xianqin said that she was calm. Lu Xiaoliang, who was standing below the stage, almost shrunk his neck into his stomach. He said to Fang Tianyu, who was tearing his resignation letter bitterly, Old Fang, Chief Chen slapped us in the face again. Fang Tianyu stuffed the shredded paper into his pocket and rubbed his face. It's okay. I'm getting used to it after being hit a few more times. My resistance is much stronger now. Yu Hong's skin wasn't as thick as these two. His old face was flushed red, and he was extremely embarrassed. After a short pause, the whole world's audience was shocked. This guy actually did it. We owe him an apology. Before, we thought that you were shameless. Now we finally know that every word you say is so sincere. In our eyes, your actions were arrogant, domineering, and unreasonable. But now, we understand that you were just stating the truth. Compared to you, these two people called Pu Tsongnan and Butler are really shameless. They clearly fell behind, but they still stubbornly refused to withdraw from the competition. They were waiting for others to withdraw, so that they could get second or third place. This is a real villain. I'm sorry, Chen Guang. We were wrong. The more people scolded Chen Guang online, or in real life, the more apologetic they felt. They finally understood how Chen Guang felt before. Using a Chinese saying, others laugh at me for being too crazy, but I laugh at them for not seeing through me. This guy had already stood at a height that mortals couldn't imagine. No wonder when he faced thousands of criticisms online, and faced all kinds of disdain and slander from the judges and contestants, he only responded with an increasingly arrogant attitude. He never made any explanation or clarification, because there was no need to. He wasn't the one who was wrong. It was us. Our entire world was wrong. Chapter 877. In Chen Guang's livestream, the one who said yesterday that Brother Allrounder would eat sh*t if he didn't cheat, come out. Save it, brother. If these people could really fulfill their promises, our country's septic tanks would have been empty. The Buddha jumps over the wall team is here. They're so strong. They're invincible. So many gifts. Grab the bamboo. So many. It's raining for the big gift bag. I feel sorry for Miss Chu for 30 seconds. Brother Allrounder is indeed more awesome. Actually, Miss Chu is also quite amazing. If it weren't for those two shameless losers, she would have been the one to persevere to the end. That's right. Can someone explain it to me? How does his brain work? That's right. I almost vomited blood when I learned a foreign language. How old is this guy? How did he learn it? I used to think that those myths were just legends. I don't know why, but I'm starting to believe them today. Similar thoughts and conversations were happening all over the world. A live audience of 150 million people had an unparalleled impact on this matter. It spread all over the world. Everyone who heard about this for the first time had the same reaction. Their mouths were wide open, and their faces were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? You can't be crazy, right? Wake up, it's morning. Sleep, baby. You drank too much. Dr. Bass, come to my house. My little George has gone crazy. That was the gist of it. Chen Guang had done many unimaginable things in the past. For example, when he played two pianos at the same time, Death Waltz and Pull 3, it was completely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. His pencil sharpening skills were also incredible. With his relatively thin and weak body, he crushed all the competitors in the international arm wrestling competition. The American Secret Service organization almost couldn't help but try to capture him. As a complete amateur, he successfully forced an airplane to land successfully, which was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. He single-handedly dominated the global Dota Throne Challenge, sweeping away all the top players in the world without any suspense. Up until now, no one had been able to get close to his record of 10,000 on the fourth server. Many people still couldn't understand it. However, many people still felt that there was a possibility of Chen Guang's previous actions being possible. Otherwise, these were things that could be done through practice. Perhaps some people were physically gifted, so it was not completely impossible. For example, in the CCTV variety show Challenging the Impossible, there was once a foreigner who dived to a depth of 130 meters and returned to the surface safely without any diving equipment. Ordinary people would not be able to withstand the strong water pressure if they dived to a depth of 30 meters. The talented diving master was also amazing. However, the impact of what Chen Guang had done this time was too great. What he had done in front of everyone in the world was completely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. A great man once said that the strength of human imagination determined how far one could go. Even if his body hadn't reached it, his heart had already touched the boundary. But so far, out of the more than 6 billion people in the world, almost no one had ever imagined that someone could actually master all the human languages in the world. 4,978. No one had ever thought of such a thing, even if it was just a drunken fantasy. Even in movies and television dramas that were detached from reality, no one had ever acted in such an exaggerated manner. But this had already become a reality, and it was ruthlessly placed in front of everyone. Facts spoke louder than words. Chen Guang's unreserved dazzling skills had completely shaken the whole world. He had exceeded the boundaries of human imagination by too much. He had suddenly made the world realize that the power of human intelligence could reach such heights and depths. Could it be that he was really an existence that had unlocked the gene lock? Did he belong to another era? Furthermore, Did the gene lock really exist? What could be done to unlock it? Similar thoughts suddenly emerged in many people's minds. It was not difficult to imagine how much of a stir Chen Guang's actions would cause in the world in a short period of time. The storm had just begun. The news that someone had mastered all the human languages would quickly sweep across the entire human civilization like wildfire. Just as Chu Zijin thought, Chen Guang had indeed opened a door to a new world for all mankind. Perhaps, on the other side of the door, there was an existence like him. Perhaps, that person could no longer be considered human. God. But that was not right. The Chen Guang on the stage still had 2 eyes, a nose and a mouth. He looked no different from an ordinary person. His body was not glowing either. The old president of the World Language Association walked forward step by step with trembling hands. He could no longer suppress his excitement. He had never thought that he would be a witness to history. The young man standing on the stage was the greatest linguist in human history. No one could be compared to him. He was a gift from the era. His appearance was a miracle. He was destined to go down in history. Do you see the golden trophy placed on the podium beside him? This is the recognition of this year's World Language Society for him. In less than a minute, I will personally hold this trophy in his hands. And my photo with him will be the witness of this epic moment. Many years later, when Chen Guang's name appears in the history books, it will also be written in the same way. On X year X month X day, the greatest linguist in human history, Chen Guang, appeared out of nowhere at this World Language Conference. With an unstoppable momentum, he easily won the championship of the World Language Conference, announcing his appearance to the world. Below this line of words was a photo of him holding the trophy high. Beside him, there would definitely be a figure of him. At the bottom of the photo, there would be a small line of words. The then president of the World Language Association, Oppenheimer Verghese, personally awarded the trophy that symbolized glory to Chen Guang. This incomparably glorious moment belongs to him. And it also belongs to me. Looking at the trembling but extremely firm back of the old president, Huang Changming could not hide the disappointment in his heart. How I wish it was me. This old guy got it first. Do you have the face to give out the trophy? Didn't you look down on our Chen Guang before? Huang Changming had forgotten that he was also quite shameless. Chen Guang slowly retracted his arm, and the cheers below the stage did not stop. He thought to himself, now that the idol in the world within the Heaven Line Cup had appeared, his original goal had been achieved. There seemed to be no point in continuing to stay here. It was time to leave. As for the subsequent scoring and award ceremonies, he would count the gains and losses of this World Language Conference, how much the company had earned, and how the bonuses would be distributed. Sorry, I don't care about these things. Anyway, Tianguang Brokerage would definitely not lose money. He had already received more than 170 million. Now, the gifts in his live broadcast room would definitely be off the charts. If he won the championship, he would get back 50 million. After deducting the tax, he would get back 40 million. The total expenses were exactly 100 million. After deducting the dividends from the Wuxia Language Association, the net profit should be close to 80 million. Looking at the whole world, how many startup private companies could earn as much as he did? A World Language Conference with less than 2 weeks of preparation time could earn 80 million. Who could compare? In addition, the companies and organizations that sponsored and bought the rights to the live broadcast also earned a lot of money. This was a happy result for everyone. Then if there's nothing else, I'll leave first? Chen Guang didn't care about the old president of the World Language Association, who was walking on the stage. He also didn't care about the golden trophy beside him. He planned to slip away. What a joke. How could the old man's ability be summed up by a mere trophy? Besides, I heard that the trophy was gilded and not made of pure gold. I can't be bothered to take it, okay? However, at this time, the female host rushed up with a red face. She stood beside Chen Guang and said loudly in an extremely excited tone, Mr. Chen, may I ask if you have anything to say to everyone? Each and every one of us would like to hear your thoughts right now. The female host, who had been busy the whole day, almost didn't rest. It wasn't easy for her to last until now. Chen Guang looked at her trembling legs and felt tired for her. He thought to himself, since she has come up to ask, should I force myself to say a few words? Taking the microphone from the female host, Chen Guang raised his head slightly and looked around the huge venue. The venue, which was extremely noisy just a moment ago, was instantly silent. Everyone held their breath and waited to listen to his teachings. In a sense, he was one of the greatest scholars in the world. Even listening to him casually say a few words about life was better than reading 10 years of books. In the corner of the venue, there was a very eye-catching group of people. This group of people sat together, and their shiny bald heads made them look particularly dazzling. However, after 3 consecutive days of competition, no one was curious about this group of people anymore. Yes, that's right. This was Chen Guang's most loyal #1 fan group, the Anti-Light Alliance. As long as it was an event that Chen Guang participated in, the Anti-Light Alliance would be there. Their bald heads were their greatest symbol, and also the belief of this group of true loyal fans. This was the purest fan group. They didn't accept female fans or membership fees. Everyone was the purest form of worship. They fought on the front lines for Brother Almighty online. When Brother Almighty's company was attacked by anti-fans, they also bravely stood up to defend Brother Almighty's company. They never profited, they only cared about giving. Their hearts were pure, and only the purest true loyal fans had the right to join this great group. At this moment, the bald president was looking at Chen Guang's figure on the stage with tears streaming down his face. The vice president beside him was tugging at his sleeve and speaking in an emotional but low voice. Mr. President, I didn't expect Brother Almighty to be so great. It's not in vain that we've been his fans. Mr. President, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Are you also touched by Brother Almighty? I knew you were lying to us, Mr. President. Although you always say that you're Brother Almighty's anti-fan, we actually know that it's because you love him deeply. Mr. President, are you crying tears of joy? The other members of the Anti-Light Alliance who were sitting beside the president also spoke softly with mixed emotions. One after another, they patted the back of the crying tears of joy president. The president really cried, and tears flowed down his cheeks. Touched your sister. I'm crying tears of joy, your sister. I'm really sad, okay? Do you think it's easy for me? I created an anti-Chen Guang alliance, and unknowingly became a super loyal fan group that was worshipped by Chen Guang's fans all over the world. To all Chen Guang's anti-fans, I'm guilty, I've let you down. But I can't bear to leave these friends. Although our ideals are different, I can't bear to leave because of our friendship. Whenever Chen Guang has a show, I also need to be there to see his misfortune. So we've always been inseparable. But why is it like this? God, are you torturing me? The day before yesterday, and yesterday were probably the happiest 2 days of my life. Seeing him so unlucky, I feel so good. I feel so satisfied. I feel that paying out of my own pocket to follow him around is worth it. He's finally going to suffer. His false mask of angling for fame was finally going to be exposed. But what's going on today? What's going on? From heaven to hell. I've been falling for an entire day. Now I've succeeded in showing off again. Can you understand the sadness in my heart? I'm already starting to doubt my philosophy of life, okay? I'm even about to convince myself that he's really awesome. The most infuriating thing is, when did this guy grow his hair? And it's so elegant. We agreed to be bald together, but you're the one with long black hair first. Are you even human? God, you're poisonous, right? Mr. President, don't cry. Brother All-Purpose is going to speak. The bald-headed president silently wiped his tears. Okay, that's it. On the stage, Chen Guang took a deep breath. It's coming. The teachings of the strongest linguist in history. Chen Guang finally opened his mouth slowly and said calmly, Everyone, remember to support my new movie, Women. Truth be told, the principles of generalization could only be said when chatting with others in private. He felt annoyed and pointless to talk in front of so many people. It was pointless and pointless. After thinking about it, now that the world of the Language Masters Cup has reached the status of a god, why not warm up the other world of the one-line Heavenly Cup? The world of acting? After a brief silence, 2 golden words flew up in the sky above the earth. piercing the sky, standing on the ground. F***CK. Did I give you face? Who advertises like that? Why don't you do an Armstrong spiral 3,600 degrees in the air? Those who had a certain understanding of him remembered at this moment. This scene was so familiar. If they remembered correctly, he did the same thing at the press conference, after saving the Airbus A320. It was supposed to be a press conference, a heroic declaration. But he ended up advertising his piano performance the next week. At that time, they thought that this guy was just having a mental spasm. Now these people who knew the ropes understood that this was his routine from the start. This guy has already played this marketing advertising trick to perfection. If you hadn't just refreshed our outlook on life and the world, we would have rushed up to beat you up, okay? I knew it. This guy would definitely do something weird. Director Deng, is President Chen trying to put us on the fire? Big Beard Deng. Don't talk to me. I want some peace and quiet. The international aviation industry staff, watching the competition, were rocking back and forth with laughter. The CEO of Pan Am slammed the table in his office and said loudly, "These people really don't learn from their mistakes." When the host asked him to speak, I felt like something was going to happen. They're in the same boat as us. After saying this, Chen Guang felt that the effect of the advertisement was very good. If the movie didn't make 3 or 4 billion yuan at the box office, it would be a waste of his advertisement. I don't even need to increase the box office. I definitely don't want the spirit field. Can you find an advertisement on Earth that has a more immediate and wider coverage than my advertisement? Uncle Big Beard should be moved to tears by now, right? Chen Guang turned to leave. The old president, who was standing next to the stage, hurriedly shouted, "Mr. Chen, the trophy." As he shouted, he tried to step forward and reached out his hand. Chen Guang said, thinking that he didn't want to take it because it was too troublesome, but now that he had been exposed, he had to take it. Otherwise, it would be too disrespectful to the world's language society. So he turned around, picked up the trophy with lightning-fast hands, made a simple gesture to the audience below the stage, made a simple pose, smiled, and then turned to leave. The poor old President Oppenheimer's hand hung in midair. He looked at Chen Guang holding the trophy and was stunned. In Chinese, there is nothing more sorrowful than a dead heart, right? My group photo. Chapter 878. Without greeting anyone, Chen Guang ran out of the Dongqing Exhibition Center's back door. When he reached the staff's underground parking lot, he remembered that he did not have a car in Beijing. Previously, Big Beard Deng said that Chen Guang had a competition, so Yang Shi did not need to accompany him for the next 2 days. Yang Shi went to the film set today and did not wait for Chen Guang. I stiffened, holding the huge trophy and standing alone in the cold underground parking lot. Chen Guang felt like a fool. The security guard in charge of the parking lot was still watching the TV. The TV was showing the World Language Conference and was still giving the other contestants their scores. Chen Guang, wait for me. Chen Guang turned around and saw Chu Zijin running over. Why did you follow me? Chu Zijin shrugged. You are already gone. What am I doing there? Don't mess around. Isn't this still a score? If I remember correctly, the top 20 should have a prize, right? With your performance just now, I estimate that you are at least a top 5 contender. Unexpectedly, this fanatic cute girl shrugged. I am not first. What's the point? I don't want the prize money. You are thinking too much. You want to be first? How about in your next life? What a joke. The prize money for the top 5 is at least 5 million. Go back and get it. I feel that you might even get second or third place. Chu Zijin grinned and said, Don't worry. The judges all know that I'm one of your people. They definitely won't mess around with the scores. If they really give me a score, even if I'm not there, I won't get a single cent less. Haven't you already left? Chen Guang stared. Of course I don't need to worry about the prize money. Oh right, when did you become my person? That's not what I mean. What are you thinking? In the end, Chen Guang still could not chase Chu Zijin away. The reason was simple. This young girl actually had a car. It was I who lost. You are already an adult, right? Can I get a driver's license? As the god of racing, Chen Guang sat in the driver's seat and asked Chu Zijin as he started the car. Actually, this was his test. Cute fanatic girl. Just thinking about it makes me feel good. Wait, what did she mean when she said she didn't mean it that way? Could it be that the fanatics actually didn't want to offer their beautiful bodies? This was illogical. Not good. The old man's willpower is out of control again. Collect for me. I am a righteous man. 2 years ago, I hacked the household registration information network and changed my age by 3 years. Now I'm already 21 on my ID card. Chen Guang. Very good, very strong, you can do it. Underage. Sigh. Wait, you sound disappointed. No, absolutely not. I know very well about you. Stop pretending. I know that your private life is very messy. Why did it feel like she was being seen through? Halfway through the car, old Master Guang didn't give up and turned to look at her from time to time. There was no problem. The light green line of faith on her forehead was not fake. She was a real fanatic. Why do you keep looking at me? Is there something wrong with my face? Chu Zijin couldn't take it anymore. Chen Guang looked back. No. I have a presumptuous request. Speak, I'm listening. Can you flash for a moment? Chu Zijin was stunned. Flash. Then she quickly reacted. After all, she was also a professional female broadcaster. How could she not know such professional words? Wake up, it's time to take your medicine. Chu Zijin rolled her eyes and didn't say anything. Hearing those words, Chen Guang was briefly stunned. He had no idea what went wrong. He made this joke not because he really wanted to do anything to Chu Zijin, but because of Chu Zijin's abnormal behavior. He was curious and wanted to test if there was a problem with his fanatic's faith. He would know after testing it. Could it be that something went wrong with my heavenly holy grail? This fanatic was not sincere enough at all. Thank you. After a while, Chu Zijin suddenly said inexplicably, Chen Guang. Ha! I know you can tell. I really admire you, just like those brainless groupies. I don't deny this. I know you are worried that I will be like other girls, unable to extricate myself from you. You did that on purpose just now to remind me not to lose my modesty just because I admire you, right? You are actually a good person. Chen Guang stared at her. This crazy person's train of thought was really wide. You can understand my flirting like this? You are really good at using the good person card. Alright, in a sense, you are not wrong to think that way. He didn't want to explain anymore. He realized that this girl's biggest problem was that her brain worked too fast. In an instant, she could go from a trivial matter to thousands of miles away. Speaking of which, she was indeed amazing. In the past, she had also shown many extraordinary talents in her live broadcasts. She could actually learn more than 30 languages in her spare time. If it wasn't for his existence, she would probably be considered a top genius in this world. She should be on the same level as the self-destructing maniac Nicosia Teppert. It seemed that he had underestimated her. Although the real her didn't have the mysterious air she showed in the live broadcast, her true level of genius was actually far beyond the ability she showed in the broadcast. Perhaps she had also held back in the live broadcast. Since Sheng Yu he Sheng Liang and the old man were born in the same era, it was really a tragedy for geniuses like you. Old Master Guang thought narcissistically. In the end, nothing happened between him and Chu Zijin. Firstly, he didn't have that intention. Secondly, although Chu Zijin admired him, she didn't turn her admiration into an impulse to give herself to him. She was very rational and organized her emotions and thoughts very clearly. She could even use her rationality to analyze her own feelings. After returning to the hotel, Chen Guang booked a plane ticket back to the 5 capitals tomorrow. He had nothing to do today, so he went to see the situation inside the heavenly Holy Grail. Chen Guang wasn't in a hurry to enter the world in the cup. In fact, he could have gone in to take a look first, but he had been holding back. Although he didn't know what kind of surprise the statue in the world in the line of Heaven's cup would bring, he had a hunch that it wouldn't disappoint him. If it was in the past, Lioli would have notified him in his heart. However, recently Lioli's seclusion had almost become a missing person. If he didn't know that she was in Yunqing and couldn't go anywhere, Chen Guang would have put up a missing person notice. At this time, Chen Guang was like buying a scratch-off lottery ticket. He could draw the lottery at any time, but he just didn't. He had to bathe and change his clothes, fast for 3 days, and then make a sincere wish in his heart. Then, he went to the temple to burn incense, and accumulated his luck to the extreme before he carefully scratched the cover on the lottery ticket. It was impossible to fast for 3 days, but he could bathe and change his clothes first. It would be good to complete half of it first. At least it would show that his attitude was very correct. 15 minutes later, Chen Guang changed into a loose set of pajamas, and then opened the bamboo leaf green in the private room. He used the heavenly holy cup to make a cup of hot tea. Then he picked up the cup, ran to the deck chair on the balcony and lay down. He gently took a sip of tea, held the lid of the cup in his hand, and closed his eyes. In the next moment, he had already appeared in Yunqing. Looking around, the place where Liuli used to sit was still empty. It seemed that she was still wrapped in the leaves of the deer cry fruit, and hadn't come out. Turning his head, Chen Guang looked into the distance. The clouds in the sky seemed to be a bit more numerous than usual. However, ever since Cloud City was formed, if he didn't intentionally control it, he wouldn't be able to see the faith threads that covered the sky and covered the earth. At this time, on the platform of the wall of Yunqing, there was a dazzling milky white ball of light that was flickering. Even Chen Guang himself couldn't clearly see what the statue of God in the ball of light looked like with his naked eye. Chen Guang wasn't in a hurry to fly over to check the appearance of the statue of God. Instead, he was calculating the production of faith value in his heart. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't checked, but after checking he was shocked. The statue of God in the world in the one-line heavenly cup was really too terrifying. The production of faith value was actually 10 times that of the Divine Spirit statue. Now, with the increasing recovery of the deer cry fruit's ability, the production limit of the 7 Divine Spirit statues had already reached 52110. At this time, the statue of God formed from the world of languages had yet to be fully formed, but the gathering of faith value had already been completed, and the production had reached a full 521,100. There was an additional 0 at the back. The total production of faith value of the Heavenly Holy Cup instantly shot up, from just over 400,000 to more than 900,000. Moreover, it seemed that because there were too many threads of faith value connected at the same time, even though the absorption of faith value had already been completed, the statue of God was still changing, as if there was some other way. Simply put, the crazy faith value brought by reaching 150 million people at the same time made the newly born statue of God's capacity completely explode. Although the production had reached the upper limit, the change in quantity led to a qualitative change. According to Liuli's theory as a lab rat, there must be something that he and she weren't aware of that was about to happen. Thinking back to the poor treatment he received every time he wanted to undergo special training, Chen Guang also felt extremely regretful. Don't anyone talk to me about great principles. In the future, I don't want to experience the beggar's version of the world in the cup ever again. That thing is simply poisonous. Don't think about such a simple good thing. In the future, you won't be able to customize special training like before. At this time, Liuli's voice finally floated over from the deer cry fruit. Chen Guang said in shock, "What's going on? Why is this happening? You already have the statue of God in the world, in the line Heavenly Holy Cup. The Heavenly Holy Cup has determined that you have passed the novice stage. According to the online game in your world, you have already left the novice village. Do you still want to go back to the novice village to bully the newbies? From the moment the statue of the language master began to brew, you can no longer use the most basic custom-made special training of the Heavenly Holy Cup." Chen Guang's face darkened. Isn't this a trap? Leveling up also brings about degradation of functions? Is this Heavenly Holy Cup addicted to leveling up in reverse? I keep feeling that you're the one who's tricking me. Why didn't you say something so important earlier? Chen Guang was furious. If I had known it would be like this, I would have endured it a little longer. I would have gotten more special training of the Heavenly Holy Cup and built the statue of God in the line Heavenly Holy Cup. This emperor has tricked you, so what? Sure enough, the goddess was the goddess. This one has lost. Chapter 879. Little brat, it's good that you know how powerful it is. What do you know? The heavenly holy grail is to prevent you from getting lost in the low-level spirit-seeing sky level. Understand? It's for your own good. Spirit-seeing sky is so easy. And it's cheap. It's also cost-effective. It wasn't easy for me to accumulate more than 900,000 faith points a day. And I can get a super deluxe special training every 2 days. How great is that? What nonsense are you thinking about? Think about the sea of moments in the sky glimmer. A single world in a cup allowed you to learn close to 5,000 languages. How can this effect be compared to the lowest level spirit-seeing sky? Not letting you use the spirit-seeing sky special training is to let you obediently level up to the sky glimmer. Why don't you understand the painstaking efforts of this emperor and the heavenly holy grail? Look at you. This emperor knows that you will definitely be immersed in the relaxed spirit-seeing sky. You should know that there is no free lunch in the infinite worlds. If you want to become the true lord of the 3,000 worlds, you can only advance bravely and bravely, cutting off your own path of retreat. Only then can you be free of worries. Chen Guang shrugged. I understand the logic, but I didn't cut off my path of retreat. It was you who cut it off for me. Don't worry about the details, you don't have a choice anyway. As the two were chatting, the ball of light on the Cloud City platform flickered continuously, finally dimming down. Chen Guang turned back to look, feeling extremely surprised. He had originally thought that the statue this time would be a huge mouth, but what appeared on the platform was a strange round ball of light. This ball of light was about 3,000 feet in diameter, floating in the air like a colorful sun. Chen Guang flew up using his will. When he got closer, he could clearly see that this ball of light was actually made up of countless mysterious symbols. These symbols were slowly revolving around the center, according to a law that he completely did not understand. Every symbol looked like words, but also did not have any meaning, like a ghost drawing of a peach talisman. Chen Guang got even closer, squinting his eyes to look. With a thought, the originally fingernail-sized symbol strangely kept enlarging in his eyes. Only then did Chen Guang realize that the symbol, which looked like a hole, was actually made up of countless smaller symbols. Why don't you try zooming in again? He thought to himself. As expected, the image in his eyes continued to enlarge. The small symbols that formed the big symbols were actually made up of countless smaller symbols. Don't waste your energy. There's something strange about this statue of yours. In the words of some mathematicians in your world, even if you magnify it infinitely, you still won't be able to reverse it. You'll only see countless smaller symbols forming a larger symbol. When you can really see through the mystery of this statue, I should be able to get out of here. Chen Guang pinched his fingers and calculated. My dear Lord Liuli, this is only the second level of the world in the cup. Does it have to be so scary? Was this statue really that powerful? Doesn't our supreme holy grail have 9 layers? Liuli spat at him. A normal one-line sky god isn't this strange, but what? But you brat played a little too big this time. The first time you condensed the one-line sky god, you successfully created the strongest ultimate god statue. Therefore, some unexpected changes happened. Ultimate god statue. I've learned a new term. What changes? Perhaps it's because you obtained the absolute recognition of over 100 million people at the same time, which gave birth to the ultimate god statue. I'm not too sure about the specifics. If I could figure it out, I would have regained my freedom long ago. In any case, you only need to know that these symbols in your statue represent the ability to communicate with all living things. The so-called ultimate god statue is the complete form that represents this realm and level. It sounds amazing, but what's the benefit? Communicating with all living things? Does it mean that my ability to communicate with people has already broken through the sky? Can I talk to a rock in the future? Chen Guang thought that his premonition was indeed accurate. Not to mention the explosive increase in faith value. This inexplicable ultimate god statue sounded very scary. It was impossible that it didn't have any benefits. Am I going to be rich? Dream on. You've mastered all human languages on Earth, and your brain has mastered all human languages. You know the birth and evolution of these languages like the back of your hand. Your ability to communicate has indeed broken through the limits of humans on Earth. However, this only means that you've entered the door of communicating with all living things. You still have a long way to go. The realm of gods is not something that you can imagine at the moment. Then what's the use of this ultimate god statue? No, of course it's useful. Right now, these symbols in the statue are evolving on their own. It's the statue that is helping you complete the process of deduction. It's the statue that is helping you walk. When the statue truly completes all the deductions, you will truly have the ability to communicate with all living things. At that time, you might really be able to chat with a rock. You might even be able to give a soul to a lifeless object. You will become a god like me. Chen Guang was overjoyed. So powerful? How many years will it take? I've calculated with my fingers. 100 million years. You're King kidding me. This emperor is serious. I would have become a fossil in 100 million years. What's the use of this? Of course it's useful. This statue at least means that you have the possibility. It's just like the tickets to those activities. With the tickets, you can at least enter the door. Apart from that, the ultimate god statue also brings you another benefit. What benefit? A title. From now on, you're also a person with a title. That sounds awesome. What's the title? The god of communication. Doesn't that sound a little too wretched? You might as well be called the god of shady transactions. The electronic voice of the heavenly Holy Grail sounded without warning. Congratulations on the successful naming of the Redeemer. Earth Sauce Exploder Chen Guang has obtained the title, God of Shady Transactions. Chen Guang's eyes widened. What's going on? Does this mean that our idle chatter just now inexplicably triggered the naming mechanism of the heavenly Holy Grail again? Yes, that's right. Isn't this a little too casual? It's clearly such a serious matter. Why didn't you inform me in advance? Or at least give me a hint? Is this your first time dealing with the heavenly Holy Grail? Chen Guang was instantly speechless. I've been tricked by my own naming disease again. Forget it. Can we change it? Name change failed. Once a title is determined, it can't be changed. Chen Guang slapped himself in the face. He didn't know why, but he really wanted to strangle himself. Alright, stop struggling. God of Shady Transactions Earth Sauce Exploder Chen Guang. Azure decisively added insult to injury. She loved to see Chen Guang's unlucky look. No, I can still salvage a little more. How can the heavenly Holy Grail be taken lightly? How can it be changed just because you say so? Be reasonable and don't change it. Alright, stop talking nonsense. Don't you want to know the benefits of this title? There are benefits. I've only just received a hint from the spirit of the Holy Grail. This title of God of Shady Transactions does indeed have some practical value. Please speak. When necessary, you can activate the forced shady transaction mode. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. I won't be able to use this function for the rest of my life. No. This forced shady transaction mode isn't what you think it is. For example, if you want to ask someone to do something, but under normal circumstances, the other party won't agree. At this time, you can forcefully pull him into the shady transaction mode and use arguments to forcefully convince the other party, thereby achieving your goal. Then, the other party will unknowingly think that your unreasonable request is also reasonable. Chen Guang thought about it in his mind. It's the same principle as the War of Words mode in the glorious Three Kingdoms that I played before. Forced shady transaction? He recalled the diplomatic mode in the history of the Three Kingdoms. Once he was almost destroyed by the computer because he was hosting the computer. Then, he decisively sent a civil official to negotiate for peace. But the computer could destroy him in minutes. In the end, he triggered the War of Words mode. Then, he relied on the victory of the War of Words to forcefully negotiate for peace, which bought him precious time to continue struggling at death's door for 30 years. Although in the end, he was still invaded by the southern barbarians. Sometimes, The War of Words mode would also be triggered when a general surrendered. Although this mode was completely unreasonable, it was indeed useful. Lioli humphed. That's right. You've also played the glorious Three Kingdoms before. I played it when I had nothing to do. I've been busy recently, so I don't have time. Oh, alright. If there's nothing else, you can scram. I have to busy myself again. Chen Guang's mouth twitched. Be careful that I don't force you to do a shady transaction and make you call me Dear Master Guang in the future. Do you believe it or not? Save it with me. How can a mortal conduct shady transactions with a god? Oh right, let me give you a reminder. From today onwards, don't easily use your faith points. I have a great use for it, so the more you save, the better. Originally, I didn't intend to tell you in advance, but since you've created a Skyline God statue, and the production of faith points has skyrocketed, I can reveal a little to you. Chen Guang's eyes lit up. The big plan that Lioli had been working on for a long time had finally revealed some clues. No, as the god of shady transactions, how could I let her fool me so easily? I have to swindle some information out of her. Alright, stop bluffing. You already have inner strength now, but it's not strong enough. You don't have an absolute guarantee of safety in this world. I'm tired of being your nanny, so I plan to let your inner strength become like that as soon as possible. It can be of great use, so you don't have to ask me for help for no reason. Sigh, having a roundworm in my stomach is so strenuous. There's no sense of accomplishment at all. How dare you say that I'm a roundworm? Dirkrai, help me send him on his way. Pia. Master Guang directly slapped Dirkrai's big leaf out of the cup world. Coming out of the cup world, he looked at his watch. Alright, there's no need to look anymore. Cell phones nowadays don't display seconds, so there's no way of knowing how many seconds have passed. He stood up and turned on the television, switching to the Central TV Entertainment channel. The group of judges were still bitterly giving their scores, and even Chen Guang felt tired for them. Fortunately, he had run away quickly. The old man didn't need to participate in such trivial matters. Then the problem was, what should he do now? What? Hit the sword tower to practice martial arts? How strange. Ever since he found out that Lioli's grand plan was related to his inner force, his entire body suddenly became limp, and he couldn't muster up any energy at all. It's probably because I've been gaming too much recently, and my gaming overload disorder is acting up again. Let me rest for 17 or 18 years before I consider this matter. Chen Guang's mind was in a mess. He felt that there were many things he wanted to do, but he didn't know what to do immediately. It was only past 7 in the evening, and he was still miles away from sleeping. He lay alone in his room, feeling that once he didn't feel like gaming, he would become bored. His intuition told him that this wouldn't do. He was the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, Lioli's savior, so he had to make efficient use of his time. Life was about persevering and fighting, and he couldn't waste even an inch of time. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Alright, he finally remembered that he hadn't had dinner yet. After calling the restaurant's customer service and ordering a set meal for 3, Chen Guang began to fiddle with the computer in boredom again. Compared to a few days ago, there had been a 180-degree turn of events on the internet. He didn't need to read too much to imagine how these people would talk about him now. For example, the number of comments under his most recent update on Weibo had exceeded 500,000 today, and it was rushing straight to the extremely exaggerated figure of 1 million comments. It wasn't impossible for it to exceed 3 million comments in 3 or 4 days. His number of Weibo fans had increased by another 10 million these days, reaching an outrageous 31 million. Once again, it was emphasized that they were all living people, and there were no zombie fans. The last time a celebrity's Weibo was so popular, it was already when the wife of a popular A-list male celebrity had an affair. This Weibo post was produced by Tianguang Management Company, and the whole process of Chen Guang's World Language Conference was brilliantly edited. The production was rushed, but it was still beautiful enough. Chen Guang didn't even dare to look at the comments below. If he read too much, he was afraid that he would become arrogant and complacent. He randomly picked one. Brother all-rounder, I want to give birth to your child. This young lady was very honest. Not only did she comment, But she even attached an untouched photo of her bare face. She was really beautiful. Brother all-rounder. I want to give birth to your child too. Damn it, this guy was a guy. The two comments with the highest number of likes were reposted and commented by Jin Shiriyue and Jiang Yache. Sure enough, the halo of popularity that came with the two of them was strong enough. Wherever they went, they were the focus of attention. Even if they hid in hundreds of thousands of comments and randomly posted an emoji, they would be picked out and praised for the next year. Jiang Yache only sent an emoji and a thumbs-up gesture. Jin Shiriyue typed a paragraph. I always knew that you were the best. Not only these two, but other celebrities that Chen Guang didn't know also reposted and commented on their own. He didn't know if it was started by Jin Shiriyue or Jiang Yache, but that wasn't important. What was important was that Chen Guang's Weibo couldn't be stopped. Before dinner was delivered, Chen Guang received a few more calls. They were probably from Lu Fei, Wu Tong, and Zhuo Jingxi. Even his younger sister, Fan Lingshan, who he hadn't seen for a long time, and was currently in her third year of high school, sent him a message to congratulate him. As for Tang Ying, well, Chen Guang took the initiative to call her to report the good news, but she turned off her phone. Over at school, Lin Jingwei started a video chat with him. Chen Guang realized that the three of them had already printed out his photo and hung it on the wall. There was an incense burner below it, just like how the seniors would burn incense and pray to Brother Chen before every exam. Chen Guang had become the new generation's prodigy. Chapter 880. F*CK. I was just saying. You guys don't really have to worship me, right? Bai Nyangzi snatched the phone from Lin Jingwei's hand. Brother Guang, you have no idea how popular you are in school now. If we don't act quickly, our business will be snatched away. Chen Guang was puzzled. Business? Bai Nyangzi dodged and aimed the camera behind him. On the coffee table in the dormitory living room was a thick stack of freshly baked photos that were still emitting steam. On the photo was a picture of Chen Guang's big pancake face. Beside the pancake face was a bunch of words. The first line, if you believe in Brother Guang, you will not fail. The second line, if you worship the prodigy, you will gain eternal life. The horizontal line, invincible. F*CKU. Chen Guang immediately understood what these bastards were planning. They were planning to make a fortune by selling his photos. Lin Jingwei's head popped out of the video. The cost is 150 yuan per photo. Let's sell it for 5 yuan. How about that? I'll give you half of the profits. Chen Guang secretly rolled his eyes. Your grandfather's New Year's money should be enough for you to live freely for the rest of your life. How embarrassing. Wait, don't sell it yet. Wait for me to come back and sign it before selling it. It's 50 yuan per photo. I'll personally consecrate it. It'll appreciate. As expected of Brother Guang. You're a genius. That's for sure. As Chen Guang chatted with the others, someone knocked on the door. When he opened the door, there was a handsome young man standing outside. He was dressed in a neat waiter's uniform. Master Guang's eyes narrowed. This year's Tianjin hotel didn't have a high EQ. How could they send a young man to deliver food to a male tenant? You even sent such a handsome young man. It's obvious that you're targeting me. Forget it. Fortunately, I'm more handsome than him. Mr. Chen, your dinner. The young man straightened his back and stood at the door in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. He felt uncomfortable being scrutinized by Chen Guang from head to toe. Just now, in order to snatch the place to deliver food to Chen Guang, the guest service department almost fought. At the critical moment, the manager stood up to calm the situation and let him, the only person who didn't fight for the place, deliver the food. The young man was a little reluctant, but he couldn't ignore the manager's words, so he stiffened his neck and came. Looking at Chen Guang in front of him, the young man thought to himself, I don't have 3 heads and 6 arms. What right do you have to be so arrogant? Shaoli was really something. Why did she worship him? Was that necessary? Thinking back to when he was in the customer service department's office, the waitress that he had always admired, Shaoli, actually said that she was willing to give birth to his child. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Rival in love. That's right, this is my love rival. An imperceptible hostility flashed in the young man's eyes. He could hide it from others, but he couldn't hide it from Chen Guang. As the god of acting, Chen Guang immediately noticed it. This young man doesn't like me? Chen Guang raised his eyebrows slightly, suddenly feeling interested. He immediately remembered the new skill that he had just obtained, and hadn't had the chance to test out its power. Forced transaction. Young man, I see that you don't look good, so I have to talk to you. Bro, give me 100 yuan. That's right, not borrow, but directly ask. Chen Guang said casually. He thought of an idea that the young man would never agree to. Force begging mode. Are you afraid? As expected, the young man was stunned. He looked at Chen Guang with a face full of caution. Mr. Chen, what do you mean? Chen Guang grunted through his nose. Nothing. The next moment, he narrowed his eyes and decisively activated forced transaction mode on the young man. The scenery around the two instantly changed, and they appeared on two stone pillars about 2 meters in diameter. The lava below them was boiling, and waves of hot air rose from below. Chen Guang was very familiar with this scene. Wasn't this the battle of words in the glorious Three Kingdoms? The heavenly Holy Grail really cut corners. He looked up and saw that the young man was standing on another platform. However, there was no panic on his face. Instead, he looked at him calmly. It was obvious that this young man was also a spirit when he came in. Moreover, his mind was in a completely sealed state. There was no emotion at all, just like an NPC in a game. Forced transaction. Begin now. The exclusive electronic voice of the heavenly Holy Grail echoed in the air. Chen Guang's face darkened. A battle of words was a battle of words. Why did it have to be a forced transaction? No, a battle of words sounded even more wretched. Forget it, don't worry about the details. The sun is round. The young man who was sealed got into the zone before Chen Guang, and initiated an attack at the first instance. As he opened his mouth, a string of words turned into golden light, and flew straight in front of him, hitting the pillar below Chen Guang. The pillar rumbled and fell down. You received 5 points of truth damage. The electronic voice of the heavenly Holy Grail immediately sounded in Chen Guang's mind. Look at my fiery temper. I was the one who wanted to trade with you. And you actually made the first move? Without thinking, Chen Guang pointed at the young man and shouted, 3 monks have no water to eat. The words that came out of his mouth also turned into golden light and flew out, hitting the stone pillar below the young man. Boom! A loud sound was heard. Rocks flew everywhere. The young man's stone pillar was lowered by a lot. It was at least 8 times the distance that Chen Guang fell. Critical hit. You dealt 45 points of proverbial damage to the opponent. The opponent has entered a state of dizziness, triggering a combo. Chen Guang came again. Pleasant goat, pretty goat, baldy strong, let's play mahjong. Another large ball of golden light flew straight in front of him. This time, it directly blew up the stone pillar below the young man. Critical hit. You dealt 65 points of bullshit damage to the opponent. Defeated the opponent. The poor young man fell into the magma with a plop. White smoke was coming out of his body. He looked very miserable. In an instant there was no more sound. With a snort, Chen Guang replied, Huh? Are you kidding me? The old man is the god of PY trading who knows 4,987 languages. What are you going to use to fight me? Although he still did not quite understand this PY trading. Apui, a war of words, apui. In short, the theory and mode of this war of words mode were not important. Anyway, his attributes were not just 1 or 2 levels higher than the young man's. It was simply the difference between a max-level RMB player and a beginner who had just entered the game. When the young man scolded him, he lost 5 points of HP. When he scolded him, he was stunned by a critical hit. In short, he was very cool. In the blink of an eye, his consciousness returned to reality. The young man, who had been on his guard just a moment ago, walked in excitedly with the lunchbox and placed it on the table with a thud. Then, he immediately turned around and took out $100 from his pocket, forcefully stuffing it into Chen Guang's hands. Mr. Chen, please accept my $100. Old Master Guang was stunned. Why was it so blunt? There was no reason at all. There was no foreshadowing. It was like a person walking on the street suddenly finding a passerby pleasing to the eye and rushing up to give him $100. Was that even possible? Then, the young man turned around and left without looking back. He was as carefree as a living Leifeng who did a good deed without leaving his name. Old Master Guang clutched the $100 in his hands. He finally had a deep understanding of the power of this forced PY trading. There was no need to say anything else. He had to quickly call that god Tycoon Gates and execute a forced PY trading with him, making him change the name of the heir on the will to him. Forced PY trading mode is on cooldown. Cooldown time to be determined. Just as he was thinking about this, the Heavenly Holy Grail gave him a hint without giving him any face. Damn it, Liuli, you tricked me. You didn't even tell me such important information. Forget it. Thinking about her usual style of doing things, there was nothing strange about this situation. Liuli always tricked people unknowingly. It was a familiar smell, a familiar formula. Forget it. Don't bother about those details. Based on her and the Heavenly Holy Grail's character, if there was really an emergency, the word to be determined in the cooldown time would instantly change to immediately. As Chen Guang started eating, the young man walked out in a daze. When he was about to return to the office, he heard Xiaoli complaining that the manager didn't allow her to send food to Chen Guang. His body trembled as he realized what was going on. Strange. Why did I want to give Chen Guang $100 so badly just now? Why was this happening? I don't understand at all. But at that time, that thought was so strong. Forget it. Anyway, $100 isn't much. Speaking of which, Chen Guang is really down to earth. He actually accepted $100 just like that. If I were you, I would be too embarrassed to accept it. The next morning, Chen Guang sneaked out of his room and drove Lu Xiaoyang's rented car straight to the airport. President Chen, why are you running away like a thief? I'm a celebrity now, so I have to be more discreet when I go out. Otherwise, I'll be stuck on the road anytime, okay? That's true. But do we have to leave at 5:30 in the morning? Shut up. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. How could Chen Guang admit that he was hiding from Big Beard Deng? Yes, that's right. Finally, his world language conference ended. Although the filming crew didn't get any footage of him for a while, Big Beard Deng decided to come to Tianjin Hotel early in the morning. He only had one purpose, which was to arrest Chen Guang, the investor and the male lead of women. You didn't get any footage now, but you're a layman and a major shareholder of the movie. You should stay with the crew for a few more days, so that I can guide you personally. You can also observe how others act in the movie, right? If Yang Shi hadn't secretly found a chance to text Chen Guang in the middle of the night, Chen Guang would definitely have been caught red-handed this morning. Therefore, he simply set the alarm clock to 5:30 in the morning, just to hide from Big Beard. As a best actor, how could he waste his precious time on this kind of thing? After arriving at the airport, Lu Xiaoyang drove away again. There were still a lot of follow-up work for the World Language Conference that needed to be properly completed. Tianguang Brokerage and several capable people not only couldn't get away, but Su Li from the finance department even rushed to Yanjing last night. Chen Guang, wearing a cap, stayed at the airport for more than 2 hours. If he hadn't decisively asked the person in charge of Yanjing Airport to get in through the back door, he would have almost caused a commotion. He couldn't help it. He had just shocked the whole world yesterday, and today his popularity was still in the sky. Who in the world didn't know him? The old man was actually a low-key person, but he couldn't do as he pleased in the world. He had to be famous. He had to let others know him. He had to slap the whole world in the face. Otherwise, how could he set up a statue and collect faith? Celebrities had their advantages, but naturally, they also had their difficulties. This was the price he had to pay for being famous. In this regard, Chen Guang had nothing to complain about. There were gains and losses. He could understand everything, but it was a little troublesome. Chapter 881. By the time the plane reached Wujing, many people had already heard the news. As soon as he got off the plane, He was surrounded by a dense crowd of reporters. If not for the fact that they knew that he had a bad temper, and that there were already people who got into trouble at the entrance of Gokyo University, the reporters would have already surrounded him. Mr. Chun, may I know when your next program will be? Mr. Chun, some people say that you are the smartest person in the world. What do you think of that? What other abilities do you have? Although Chen Guang's mind was in a mess from the questions, he couldn't just chase them away. He really didn't know why, but since he got on the plane from Beijing today, his temper had become violent. There was always anger in his heart. He felt that he could tolerate things in the past, but no matter how he looked at it today, he felt uncomfortable and didn't want to tolerate it at all. He waved his hands. Make way, everyone make way. I can't even get out. Mr. Chen, please answer some questions. At least answer one. The reporters did not give up. Although they did not rush forward, they did not disperse. Many ordinary people in the distance also noticed them and gathered to watch the commotion. Chen Guang was furious in his heart. This place isn't big, and you're all piling up here. What if there's a stampede? Get out of my way. This is a private trip, not a commercial event. This is not a press conference either. I will not answer any questions. You, which company are you from? Give me your name card if you have the guts. Answer my ass. Don't come looking for me if it's not a press conference. Get out of my way. Get out of my way. Chen Guang was furious. Before the crowd completely surrounded him, he forcefully used the power of his Qilin arm to push the crowd away. Seeing that the reporters were still chasing him, he turned around and took out his phone to aim at them. Come, let's see who dares to chase after me. I can't do anything to you if you don't tell me which company you're from. I'll take pictures of you. Don't you want to interview me? I'll pay you a visit later and let you interview me, okay? This time, the reporters saw that he was serious. This was a sign that he was going to settle the score. They quickly turned around and scattered. In the blink of an eye, there was no one left. Chen Guang then ran wildly in the airport and disappeared in a flash. Finally sitting in Lin Jingwei's borrowed car, Chen Guang wiped the sweat off his forehead and let out a long sigh of relief. Oh my God, I'm so tired. Lin Jingwei yawned. You still have the cheek to say that? Last night we played Dota 2's new version 7.0 until midnight. I was planning to sleep in, but you forced me out of bed, and you didn't even give me my salary. Are you Huang Shuren? Chen Guang glanced at him. It's not good to drive when you're tired. Let me drive. I'll show you what a racing god can do. Sigh, I have no choice. Didn't you see how disgusting I was to the reporters at the airport? Lin Jingwei moved his nest and teased. You're blaming me? Isn't this the path you chose? Chen Guang couldn't explain it to him. He let out a long sigh. You don't understand the pain in my heart. I have a feeling that you won't be able to go to school anytime soon. Chen Guang nodded. I know that. Then what do you plan to do? You don't want to drop out of school, and you want to study hard like us. But the more you struggle, the more famous you become. Aren't you shooting yourself in the foot? Chen Guang didn't say anything else. He understood what Lin Jingwei said, but he had no choice. The conflict between faith and a comfortable civilian life was a dead knot that couldn't be avoided. From the time he chose to open Weibo, step by step he turned from a nameless racing god wearing a V mask to a world-famous all-rounder. These things were basically doomed. After a long time he sighed. Forget it, I'll take it one step at a time. He thought to himself that after he completely solved the internal force martial artist problem, his need for faith would probably not be so strong anymore. After that, he would slowly think of a way to cool everything down. Although this world's language gathering might cause him to lose his peace for a period of time, it was worth it just for the sake of the 900,000 plus points of faith he could produce every day, and for the sake of finally allowing Azure to complete her grand plan. The car turned and went straight to the city. Not going to school? Chen Guang nodded. Yes, to the headquarters of Guangding General Administration. All right, you drive nearby first, then get out and find a way to get there yourself. Why? Lin Jingwei said unhappily. This is a car I borrowed from my friend. It can't enter such a high security unit, and I can't enter either. Don't drag me down. Even you don't have the right to enter? Lin Jingwei shrugged. I do have the right, but my grandfather is always trying to tie me to your business. If I enter Guangding General Administration, I'll be your assistant at any time. I can't even wait to avoid it, okay? Alright, I'm starting to envy you, Chen Guang said casually as he turned on the right turn signal, preparing to enter the auxiliary road to exit the airport highway. He also planned to overtake the Land Rover that was also going to exit the highway from the left side. Suddenly, just as Chen Guang was about to successfully overtake the Land Rover changed lanes without any warning and cut diagonally toward Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei's car, squeezing them into the highway's guardrail. If it was anyone else in this situation, they would have fallen for it without a doubt. Everything happened so suddenly that there was almost no time for anyone to react. However, the one sitting in the car was a god. The god of racing, Chen Guang. In the nick of time, Chen Guang slammed on the brakes and activated the ABS anti-lock system. The front of the car slammed into the ground, and the car trembled violently. Lin Jingwei's reaction was also very fast. Seeing that the situation was not good, he didn't cry out. Instead, he raised his hand and grabbed the handrail above his head, gritted his teeth, and didn't cause any disturbance to Chen Guang. In less than half a second, the car's speed dropped sharply. Because Chen Guang slammed on the brakes too hard, the ABS system and ESP body stability couldn't stop the car from skidding. In the beginning, the front of the car was heading to the right, while the rear of the car was heading to the left. However, Chen Guang suddenly turned the steering wheel and made use of the friction between the front wheels and the ground to instantly change the direction of the car to the left, while the rear of the car swung to the right, parallel to the Land Rover. At this moment, both cars were at a 45-degree angle with the road. The tires spun wildly, dragging 4 long scratches on the road, and slid forward sideways. This was the top drifting technique, straight-line drifting. At this moment, Chen Guang immediately realized 2 things. First, the Land Rover was intentional. Second, the person in the Land Rover was also an expert. As expected, the Land Rover saw that it couldn't press Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei's car against the guardrail. It swung the front of the car, and the brake lights lit up, planning to use the rear of the car to press the front of Chen Guang's car. The opponent had the upper hand. If Chen Guang's car collided with the rear of the opponent's car diagonally, it would probably be flipped over. But this wasn't the end. Chen Guang glanced at the corner of his eye and saw the front of a large truck flash by in the rearview mirror above his head. There was a large truck behind it. They were in cahoots with the Land Rover. These two were going to trap him in the middle. Little Lin, sit tight, Chen Guang shouted. His left hand grabbed the steering wheel and swung it to the right. His right hand forcefully switched from 5th gear to reverse, and then he pulled the handbrake. Thankfully, little Lin didn't borrow a luxury car, but an ordinary Volkswagen manual transmission. If it was an electronic handbrake, it would really be hopeless. His eyes focused, and his right foot changed from the brake to the accelerator. Although I don't know who it is, they want to cause a car accident? Practice for another 100 years. Chapter 882. A violent collision sound came from the direction of the clutch and the engine. The car suddenly stopped, but Chen Guang's right hand restarted the engine at a speed that was completely invisible to the naked eye. A moment later, just as the car was about to hit the rear of the Land Rover and be run over by the truck behind, the forward rotation of the car's wheels finally stopped. The next moment, the tachometer instantly pulled to the red line, and the front wheels of the car in reverse began to spin crazily. Thick smoke spewed out from under the front wheels like a fountain. At the same time, under Chen Guang's precise direction control, the car was still sliding forward vertically, but horizontally, the car had already begun to move backward. This poor family Volkswagen, under the control of the racing god Chen Guang, instantly burst out the last brilliance of its life. The side of the car first hit the Land Rover in the front that had slammed on the brakes, but because the longitudinal side sliding speed was not fast enough, the car did not roll over. Instead, a burst of sparks was scraped at the point of contact, accompanied by ear-piercing squeaks. At this moment, the front of the truck behind also tightly stuck to the front, but the other party's goal did not seem to be to kill Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei on the spot. Early on, the truck had already slowed down and braked in advance, and its goal seemed to be to firmly press Chen Guang's car in the middle. The force from the front and the back caused the entire car of the Volkswagen to be completely perpendicular to the direction of the road, and quickly squeezed and deformed the doors on both sides. Although Lin Jingwei was calm, at this moment, he was also frightened by the situation, and a thought flashed through his mind like lightning. This is a pill. He turned his head to look in the direction of Chen Guang, but found that Chen Guang was still calm and composed. I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Lin Jingwei finally started howling at the top of his lungs. Chen Guang did not pay attention to him, still firmly controlling the steering wheel, and the strength of his foot on the gas pedal became stronger and stronger. The tachometer moved further and further away from the red line, and the engine was making its final roar. Finally, when the speed reached its limit, and the entire engine was on the verge of collapse, the power of the reverse car broke through the critical point. Immediately after, the front of the truck and the rear of the Land Rover were tightly sandwiched between the front of the truck and the rear of the Land Rover. Along with the door, it deformed all the way, leaving dazzling sparks on both sides as it slid out like a slippery carp. It was obvious that Chen Guang was able to get the truck out of trouble in such a situation. It was completely beyond the ambushers' expectations. Even before Chen Guang escaped, the truck released the brakes and switched to the accelerator, continuing to press forward. Unfortunately, the truck driver's reaction was half a beat too slow, and the front of Chen Guang's car was completely detached. After getting rid of it, Chen Guang pulled the handbrake again and fiercely turned the steering wheel. The car brazenly turned 270 degrees in the narrow auxiliary road, and miraculously, it was parallel to the Land Rover that had been caught up by the big truck. The whole process of getting rid of the car was done in one go, as smooth as flowing water, worthy of Chen Guang's illustrious reputation as the god of racing. If he was alone in the car, he might choose to get off immediately and deal with the other party. This was simply making trouble for him, and he couldn't tolerate it. But now Lin Jingwei was also in the car. Although Lin Jingwei didn't neglect his training, he was just an ordinary person after all, and Chen Guang didn't want to put him in danger. So he decided to run away. Don't look at the old man's car. As long as it can run and I'm prepared, even if you drive an F1, you can't do anything to me, okay? Little Lin, sit tight. Let's go first. Chen Guang reminded him. He immediately shifted the gear, turned the steering wheel, stepped on the accelerator, and was ready to speed up and leave. Then nothing happened. The car had completely stalled, and the accelerator was almost broken by him, but there was still no movement. Lin Jingwei looked at the hood that was emitting black smoke and could burn at any time. He was very anxious and said, I think it's dead. I know. What do we do now? Of the 36 stratagems, escape is the best strategy. I'll count to 3, then get out and run. Lin Jingwei. Okay. 1, 2, 3, run. During this delay, the doors of the Land Rover and the truck, which were parked about 7 to 8 meters in front of them, opened at the same time. 6 guys dressed in black jumped out of the cars and pounced at them without saying a word. Chen Guang didn't dare to delay. He immediately prepared to open the door and get out. He pulled the handle, but there was no response. It seemed that the door lock was damaged because of the truck's deformation. There was no more time. He exerted strength in his left hand and activated his Qilin arm. The car door was knocked open, and he jumped out of the car. When he turned around, he saw that Lin Jingwei was still sitting in his seat, sweating profusely. Obviously, the door lock on his side was also broken, but he didn't have a Qilin arm like Chen Guang's, so he couldn't force the door open. Brother Guang, you go first. I'll cover the rear. Lin Jingwei roared with a deathly expression. In an instant, the 6 people in front of him had already closed the distance of 2 to 3 meters. They didn't say a word, but they moved quickly and orderly. Even though it was a sudden ambush, they seemed to have formed a battle formation. Lin Jingwei knew he couldn't get out of the car in time, so he braced himself and shouted. Of course, he knew he didn't have the ability to cover the rear. He would be killed in the next second by these people. However, even if they stretched out their heads, it would still be a knife to them. My old Lin family doesn't have cowards. We definitely won't cower. Even if he was going to die, he had to put on a show to win back some momentum. Chen Guang rushed over and pulled him to his side. Go to hell. I was hoping you could take me down with you, but you can only hold them off for a few seconds. You should leave. With Chen Guang's cultivation, he couldn't be like Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan, who could see through someone else's cultivation just by judging their momentum. Right now, Chen Guang didn't know what level of experts the other party had sent. He didn't even know who they were. However, to be on the safe side, he let Lin Jingwei go first. Luli was right. Although he had improved a little, he still lacked the ability to protect himself in this world. Unfortunately, before he could pull Lin Jingwei out of the car, the 6 people had already pounced on him. The person who moved the fastest reached his hand out from behind and grabbed the back of Chen Guang's shirt in a claw-like manner. He said in a hoarse voice, Chief Chen, we have no intention of taking your and young Master Lin's lives. Come with us obediently. Chen Guang had no choice but to let go of Lin Jingwei. He turned around and punched the person behind him in the chest. The inner force of the painting manual erupted in an instant, and the muscles of his Qilin arm contracted violently. Chen Guang's right fist reached its peak in an extremely short amount of time, and a relatively short distance. A sonic boom like the firing of a mortar came from his right fist. The person who was about to grab the back of Chen Guang's shirt immediately changed his expression. He changed his claw into a palm and retracted it, using his palm to block Chen Guang's fist. A loud sound rang out. The person was sent flying due to a moment of carelessness. Strange cracking sounds rang out as the bones in his arm were broken inch by inch. With just one punch from Chen Guang, he was heavily injured. Chen Guang didn't feel happy that he had succeeded in one move. Instead, he frowned. Wu Miaowan and Xian Qin had once said that his full-force punch could heavily injure a martial artist at the peak of bone strength like Wu Miaowan. His counterattack was extremely sudden and didn't give him any time to prepare. However, this person was able to counterattack in the nick of time and only lose one hand. There was only one explanation. This person was stronger than Wu Miaowan and Xian Qin, a skin-strength martial artist. Those who came with ill intentions. Those with good intentions didn't come. The ambusher was even more shocked than Chen Guang was when he was sent flying. What was going on? In just a few short months, Chen Guang, who didn't cultivate inner force and could only rely on the brute force of his hands, actually had inner force. Furthermore, he was so strong that he could injure a skin-strength martial artist with one punch. Did that mean he was also a skin-strength martial artist? The person who was sent flying took a few steps back. The soles of his feet left a series of inch-deep footprints on the solid surface of the highway. Only then did he manage to stabilize himself. His right hand hung weakly by his side, and a strange flush flashed across his face. What's going on? This guy is only a muscle-strength martial artist, and he can injure me so badly. As soon as he said that, the other 5 people heaved a sigh of relief. However, when they thought about it again, they felt their blood run cold. If a mere muscle-strength martial artist could injure a skin-strength martial artist, then how terrifying was this guy's physical strength? How terrifying was the speed of his growth? For a moment, the 6 of them only felt extremely lucky. If they hadn't seen him sitting in the same car with that young master named Lin Jingwei, and happened to have no bodyguards with him, they would never have realized how terrifying Chen Guang's growth could be. After thinking about it carefully, they only felt that they were lucky to have survived a disaster. For a long period of time, although they had been secretly spying on him, he was always idling around and didn't do anything serious. Instead, he made a name for himself on the internet. Now he was living like a star. They thought that this kid was addicted to the extravagant life of a rich man. They didn't expect that he was actually using an inhuman method that was beyond their understanding to seize the inner force. If they delayed it for a while, they were afraid that this kid could really grow to the level where he could threaten a martial artist at the peak of skin strength. Coupled with his identity as the director of the General Administration of Light, he would definitely become a big problem. Even Mr. Ng would make a mistake. The 6 people looked at each other, their eyes filled with joy that they were about to make a great contribution. "Let's go together," the guy with the crippled hand shouted, and rushed forward with his left hand. The other 5 people nodded, and made up their minds in an instant. 4 of them took out a black half-meter-long iron rod, and blocked in front of the car door. They smashed the iron rod in their hands at Chen Guang. Another person jumped on the hood and bent down. Black gas appeared on his palm, and his fingers glowed with a metallic luster. It seemed that he planned to directly break the cracked windshield and directly grab Lin Jingwei. After all, Chen Guang was only one person. His face was bitter. There was still hope for him to break through. But what about Lin Jingwei? Bang! A gunshot came from behind Chen Guang. The front windshield suddenly exploded. The person who jumped on the hood covered his chest and flew out. Blood spurted out from his chest. Lin Jingwei's face was gloomy as he stared at the front. Both of his elbows were on the back of the seat. Both of his hands were holding a small gun that was only the size of a palm. The thumb-thick muzzle was still emitting thick smoke. Although the gun in his hand was very small, its power was quite extraordinary. It must be the trump card that the old man prepared for him to save his life. At this time, it came in handy. "Brother Guang, I only have 1 shot. Don't worry about me. Hurry up and leave. I won't die. They want to capture us alive. As long as there's life, there's hope." Chen Guang swung his arm in a circle and punched at the iron rods that the 4 people in front of him had swung down. Only to hear the sound of banging, he actually used his fists to beat back the iron rods of the 4 people. He said, "Damn it, you came in here because of me. How can I run away alone? Don't worry, if something happens to us here, there will be surveillance over there. The masters from the Guangding General Headquarters will be here soon." Chen Guang bluffed. Taking advantage of this short interval, he finally pulled Lin Jingwei out of the car. "You hide behind me. I'm going all out." Chen Guang's fist was in great pain. Although the bones of his Kirin arm were naturally tough, his opponents were all skin-tendon martial artists. Although they were not very profound, even not as good as Wenwen and Xianqin's, and Wu Miaowan's master, who seemed to have just broken through the realm, they were still genuine skin-tendon martial artists. The strength of the iron rods enhanced by their internal strength was not to be underestimated. Chen Guang felt that his bones had probably fractured, but at this moment, his fist was aching and numb. It felt both familiar and bizarre, similar to the regenerative ability of the Earthshaker in the second punishment world. It must be the regenerative ability of the Earthshaker that had been dormant for a long time. And it must be the regenerative ability of the Earthshaker. What are you waiting for? He's alone. Can he stop the 6 of us? The guy whose right hand was crippled rushed back and said indifferently, "No, old 6 is dead." Another person pointed at the man who was still lying on the ground after being shot by Lin Jingwei. F***CK. Bastard. Bang. At this time, another gunshot came from behind Chen Guang. The opponent had lost another person. The one with the broken arm was anxious. "Don't you only have 1 shot?" Lin Jingwei leaned against the car door. His back was burned by the friction of the car door just now. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'm sorry, there's never too much deception in war. I still have 4 shots, just enough for the 6 of you." In fact, he was really bragging this time. Although the special small pistol was powerful and loaded with the new type of depleted uranium bullets that were specially designed to deal with internal strength martial artists, the pistol was only so big. It could only have 2 shots, no more. Chen Guang was overjoyed. "Awesome. Go to hell. Do you think we'll be fooled again?" The remaining 4 saw 2 of their companions die inexplicably under the gun. They were immediately furious and rushed forward again. Chen Guang wanted to use the same trick again and use his fist to repel the opponent's iron rod. However, He saw that one of them pretended to swing the rod with his right hand and threw a small black ball from his left hand. It passed through Chen Guang's crotch and landed behind him. The four people who were about to pounce on him dodged to the side in unison. Chen Guang had seen this thing before. It was a hidden weapon from the dark sect Thunderbolt Flame. Little Lin, run. Chapter 883. Just as he finished speaking, it was already too late. The thunderbolt flame exploded. Lin Jingwei only had time to lean to the side, and Chen Guang only had time to clamp his legs together and jump forward. Listening to the sound, the power of the thunderbolt explosion was not as powerful as the one thrown by the person Chen Guang met in Feng Town in the western suburbs. In order to capture him and Lin Jingwei alive, the other party was indeed well prepared. The explosion would not kill, but it would seriously injure them. Chen Guang's back and buttocks were burning hot, and he did not know how many shrapnel from the thunderbolt had hit his back. However, the weakened version of the shrapnel did not seriously injure him. It only scraped the skin on his back, leaving countless bloody marks. At the same time, the clothes on his buttocks were cut off. Lin Jingwei cried out in pain and fell sideways. Chen Guang looked back, and suddenly his eyes were wide open. The right side of Lin Jingwei's body was a bloody mess, and the densely packed black shrapnel covered his right shoulder and thigh. He was not like Chen Guang, who had a perfect body that surpassed human beings. His muscles had no resistance, and the shrapnel had penetrated deep into his flesh. Seriously injured, the four people who had just dodged saw that their attack had succeeded, and in an instant, surrounded them from the front and back of the car. Although two of their people had died, they were well trained, and knew that Mr. Ying's request was to capture these two people alive. Although they were furious, their moves were not fatal. Although Chen Guang was stronger than they had expected, he was not invincible. Moreover, he had young Master Lin beside him. Lin Jingwei had fainted and fell to the ground, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Chen Guang did not have time to check on Lin Jingwei's injury, and he was surrounded by four people. Every single one of these four people was stronger than him. Even though their skills were superficial, and they did not seem to be the result of ordinary bitter cultivation, they were still genuine leather-tendon martial artists after all. Chen Guang punched again, and blocked the iron rod that the man with the crippled right hand swung at him with his left hand. Against four opponents with specially made iron rods, who knew how many attacks he had blocked in a minute. The backs of his 5 fingers and fists had long since been torn to pieces, revealing white bones. Chen Guang would have been completely subdued and captured alive if it weren't for the fact that his Mother Earth Exploder ability, which allowed his cracked bones to rapidly recover. If it weren't for the fact that the four of them didn't dare to kill him, Chen Guang would have been completely subdued and captured alive. Otherwise he would have died on the spot. Who the hell are you people? Why do you have to deal with me? Do you know who I am? Do you know who is sitting next to me? Chen Guang shouted. In fact, he had already guessed the identity of the other party from the thunderbolt fire. He was undoubtedly an expert from the Dark Clan. He was just stalling for time by talking nonsense. The leader with one hand thought that Chen Guang was distracted. He waved his hand and signaled the others to stop for a while. Then he said coldly, Director Chen, since we have also called out young Master Lin's name, of course we know who he is. Look at you now. And young Master Lin's injury is also very serious. I advise you to surrender. His tone sounded very calm, but Chen Guang could vaguely sense a trace of hatred in his tone when he mentioned Lin Jingwei. It was not easy to hide this kind of insignificant skill from the best actor. Without a doubt, even if he surrendered obediently, even if Lin Jingwei was lucky enough to survive, these people would not let him go easily just because of the 2 shots he took. Even if they didn't kill him, he might suffer a fate worse than death. Since you know who we are, how dare you attack us? Which sect are you from? Tell me your names. Chen Guang continued to play dumb. The leader sneered. Chen Guang, I don't know if you're really stupid or just playing dumb. Can't you tell which sect we're from? You and your Guangdong General Headquarters have been trying to kill us for a long time. Do you really not know anything? Alright boss, don't talk nonsense with him. If you delay any longer, I'm afraid the experts from the Guangdong General Headquarters will be here soon. Seeing that he had failed to stall for time, Chen Guang had no choice but to raise his injured hands to deal with the other party. However, the ability of the people who exploded was too weak. It was far from the immortal body he had in the punishment realm. He was afraid that in a few more minutes, his hands would be completely shattered. Even though he had considered the possibility of being ambushed by the people from Poison Sect and Dark Sect, it had been peaceful for a long time since the last time, and he had been hiding it well. He really could not figure out what was going on, and why these people would suddenly be so determined. However, it had been about 4 to 5 minutes since the collision. Due to the large truck and Chen Guang's car blocking the exit of the auxiliary road, there was already a long queue behind it. There were even many onlookers who got out of their cars to watch the show. However, when they saw 2 people lying in a pool of blood with obvious explosion marks on the ground, for other people surrounding one person, and the person being surrounded protecting another bloody person behind him, the onlookers knew that things were getting serious. It was better not to get involved in the show, so they returned to their cars. The more enthusiastic ones hid far away and called the police. The timid ones simply did not get out of their cars from the auxiliary road. Instead, they continued to walk along the main road, planning to exit the highway at the next exit. Chen Guang decisively asked Lu Li for help in his heart. Lord Lu Li, help. I really can't help you this time. Your Lord Lu Li has already gone into seclusion. Unless you enter a state of near death, she won't be able to detect it. The one who answered him was Lu Minghua. That's not very good, is it? We'll deal with the important matters later. Lu Minghua snorted. What's the use of complaining to me? Forget it, this God Emperor has a good suggestion. Please say it. Surrender. Chen Guang used his shoulder to receive the stick while gritting his teeth in his heart. Are you kidding me? This will kill little Linny. Then you just carry it to death. So this is your idea. That's right. Good luck. Why is it good luck again? Chen Guang was really angry. Then he was hit on the head with a stick. His head was ringing. Countless sparrows were flying around him. When he looked up, everything in front of him turned black. At this moment, there was a loud siren not far away. Chen Guang and the 4 people surrounding him turned their heads at the same time, only to see several police cars speeding along the emergency lane on the airport highway. Before the rescue from the Guangdong General Headquarters arrived, the security and police forces from the airport had arrived first. Ha ha ha. You want to catch me with just you? Dream on. Obviously, his whole body was very weak, but Chen Guang still forced himself to hold on. He deliberately raised his voice and laughed loudly. But when he laughed, he was particularly weak. Blood flowed out from the gaps between his teeth. One of them was flustered and exasperated. He threw the iron stick away and took out a black, foot-long blade from behind him. This was his real weapon. It seemed that he was going to be ruthless. However, the leader, who had lost his hand, shouted at him. Stop. You can't kill him. Now the whereabouts of the Wen family's lord is unknown. If Chen Guang is alive, at least she still has something to worry about. If Chen Guang is dead, Mr. Ng will really be in trouble. But we can't take this opportunity to capture Chen Guang and this Lin brat alive. That's beating the grass and alerting the snake. It's a big crime. The leader said, We've already made a big mistake. We can't add to it. If we leave now, we still have a chance of survival. Let's go. Under his order, the 4 of them threw Chen Guang down and jumped out from the guardrail of the highway. They fell into the bushes a few feet below and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chen Guang's body went limp, and he sat on the ground. He stretched out his hand to check Lin Jingwei's breathing. Fortunately, he was still breathing. He did not know how many times he had been hit by the stick during the few minutes of standing still. There was not a single part of his body that did not hurt. After the group of people talked to each other before they left, he finally figured out some things. No wonder Wenwen had not contacted him for a long time, after he caused so much trouble. She had actually disappeared. There was no doubt that she would not disappear for no reason. Combined with her previous attitude, She must have wanted to rely on her own strength to deal a heavy blow to poison sect and dark sect. Today, this group of people was only watching and monitoring. They decided to make a move in a hurry. They must have found out that he was sitting in Lin Jingwei's car. If they were really captured by them, they would have two incredible hostages in their hands. They could use him to threaten Wenwen and force Wenwen to show herself. They could use Lin Jingwei as a threat to the old masters, making them hesitate to take action. Their wishful thinking was good. Fortunately, he had mastered inner force. He was different from before. Even if he was surrounded by 4 people, he could still hold on until now. It was also fortunate that they did not dare to kill him. Otherwise, he would not be able to turn the situation around. About half an hour later, Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei were both lying in the Shuanghe County Hospital at the airport. Their wards were heavily guarded. Dozens of emergency special forces soldiers were on standby. Other than that, the underworld experts that the Guangding General Headquarters had gathered were also rushing over. The first to arrive were Abbess Xan Yuan from Thousand Despair Sect, and sect leader Wu Qingming from Thousand Flower Valley, who had been staying near Gokyo University. With these 2 experts at the peak of skin force, he would be safe for the time being. After waiting for another hour, the other experts from the Guangding General Headquarters finally arrived one after another. This was the first time Chen Guang saw so many experts under his command. He would not have known if he did not see them, but the moment he saw them he was shocked. Lord Chrysanthemum sect leader and the current number 1 crown prince were ambushed. Those who came to guard and rescue were all sect leaders from various sects and families. There were all kinds of strange people. Even the weakest one was at the peak of bone force. Chen Guang was shocked. So it turned out that he had unknowingly become the leader of so many experts? However, he was not in the mood to communicate with his subordinates. Instead, he urged Wu Miaowan, who was about to apply medicine on him, to go to Lin Jingwei's ward next door. Don't worry about me. My self-healing ability is very strong. Little Lin's injuries are more important. Wu Miaowan waved her hand. The right side of your classmate's body is full of shrapnel. We have to remove the shrapnel first before applying medicine. He has also lost a lot of blood and needs a blood transfusion. These things can be handled by surgeons. I'll just go. Don't worry, he won't die. Chen Guang relaxed a little, but then his expression turned cold. He said with a straight face, "Why didn't you tell me earlier that sect leader Wen is missing?" Xan Qin and Wu Miaowan, who were beside him, were stunned. They looked like they wanted to say something but hesitated. Chen Guang said angrily, "Say it. Is there anything else you can't tell me? If I knew about this, I would have been more careful today. I wouldn't have been ambushed. This is a serious dereliction of duty." Xan Qin said hesitantly, We only received the news last night. We thought it wasn't a big deal. Sect leader Wen is so strong now, so it's impossible for him to be in any danger. You're coming back today, and we were planning to report it when we saw you." Chen Guang frowned. "Is that so?" Chapter 884. Chen Guang felt that Xan Qin was not telling the truth. Although she was good at acting and hiding her thoughts, the moment of hesitation when she answered the question told Chen Guang that there must be something fishy about this matter. Instead, Abbess Xan Huan came forward and cupped her hands at Chen Guang in the manner of a Jianghu person. She said, "Director Chen, I am also responsible for this matter. I did receive a tip-off last night, saying that the people of the Wen family have been unusually active these days and have swarmed out. We took the initiative to contact them, and it took us a lot of effort to get the exact news from the Wen family. Their suzerain Wenwen is missing." Wu Qingming also came forward and said, "I heard that suzerain Wen did not disappear without warning, but left a letter to the Wen family. It said that she has recently improved her skills and felt that she was invincible. She planned to rely on her own strength to uproot the poison sect and dark sect, which were the malignant tumors of the Jianghu. Instead, she felt that others were a burden, so she acted alone." Abbess Xan Huan continued to explain, Yes, the Wen family is disappointed, but there is nothing they can do. However, Suzerain Wen is now the pillar of the Wen family. Although she is strong, she is still young and inexperienced. The elders of the Wen family are worried about her safety, and they know that Suzerain Wen and you are very close. Therefore, after much consideration, they communicated this matter to us, hoping that the Guangdong General Bureau can help them find her. Chen Guang listened for a long time, and the anger in his heart slowly dissipated. After all, Abbess Xan Huan and Wu Qingming were elders, and they took the initiative to explain, which was enough to give him face. Forget it. I will interrogate Xian Qin privately later. The two elders were not as familiar with Chen Guang as Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan were. They were not that close to each other. Seeing that Chen Guang was unhappy, they were worried that Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan's positions in the Guangdong General Bureau would be affected. Therefore, they spoke in a businesslike manner. Well, this matter is settled for the time being. But have the 4 people who escaped been caught? Chen Guang thought for a while and asked again. Abbess Xan Yuan took a step forward, cupped her hands and said, "They are being chased by the leader of the Xinxing clan, Dai Quan, and the leader of the Six Swords clan, Zhuge Ling. They will definitely not be able to escape." Chen Guang was slightly stunned. Xinxing clan? Six Swords sect. Xian Qin helped to explain. That's right. Currently, among the sects that have joined the Guangdong General Bureau, the Xinxing clan and the Six Swords clan are the sects that are best at tracking, especially the Six Swords clan, which used to be a sect of the imperial court hundreds of years ago. Although they have been less active in recent years, in the past, when there were unsolved mysteries in the Jianghu, they would often ask the Six Swords clan to solve them. Chen Guang's mouth was slightly agape. It took him a while to react. To be honest, he had paid too little attention to the people in the Guangdong General Headquarters. About 10 minutes later, it was time to bandage the buttocks. Everyone else retreated out of fear. Xian Qin wanted to stay, but she was scared away by Abbess Xian Yuan's glare. Wu Qingming, on the other hand, patted Wu Miaowan's shoulder with a meaningful look on her face. "Come on, turn it over." Wu Miaowan urged him as she poured the ointment. Chen Guang felt a little awkward. He always felt that Wu Miaowan was up to no good, but he and she were innocent. "My great magic director, hurry up. After I'm done applying the ointment for you, I still have to return to the station. These are troubled times. How could Sect Master Wen just run away like that? Now the outside world is in a mess. It's fortunate that you came back today. You really came at the right time." Chen Guang was stunned. He slowly turned around with great difficulty and put his buttocks, which were full of shrapnel from the thunderbolt explosion, in the air. He asked, "Then who's going to apply the ointment for little Lin?" Wu Miaowan glared at him. "Yo, why? Do you want me to clean up your classmates' mess?" To be honest, when that image appeared in Chen Guang's mind, he was a little disgusted. "Come on. How can I not know what you're thinking when you raise your scarred buttocks? Just be honest. How many women did you have in the Dolua world in your previous life?" "Chen Guang, huh?" Wu Miaowan smiled charmingly. "I've long seen through you. You don't mean what you say. You're really possessive." Wu Miaowan received Wu Qingming's hint. She was obviously here to torture Chen Guang today. As soon as she left, she began to play tricks. Not only were her words hinting at him, but her posture was also seductive. On the other side, Chen Guang had just laid down, and his hands that were applying the ointment began to get naughty. Chen Guang's injuries today were really awkward. The weakened version of the thunderbolt explosion exploded on the back of his buttocks. Although it didn't hurt his muscles or bones, his buttocks still looked quite shocking. "Hey, be gentle. Be gentle. Why did you open my buttocks? There's an injury here too, my great magician director. Awesome, my chrysanthemum. Wait, what did you say just now?" "I said awesome, my chrysanthemum grows." "No, I keep feeling that something is wrong. You must have other intentions." "You're right. I do have other intentions. Your great magician's sacred body of elements is really something. It's really amazing. Your chrysanthemum is also so strong. Such a sharp shard stuck here. But it only scratched the skin." "Bayu." Wu Miaowan's ointment came. A cool and refreshing feeling came over. Chen Guang thought of an old acquaintance that he hadn't seen for a long time, Mr. Ma Yinglong. After a while, he was finally done applying the ointment. However, Chen Guang didn't stir up trouble for Wu Miaowan. Instead, he obediently put on a loose hospital gown and turned back to lie down. On the other side, Lin Jingwei hadn't woken up yet. Suddenly, he learned that Wenwen had gone missing. There were too many things pressing down on his heart. This wasn't the time for romance. Wu Miaowan was also a true disciple of Wu Qingming. She had a good grasp of the situation. She wanted to let him know that she had feelings for him, so that he would also have feelings for her. However, she didn't cross the line. Wu Qingming had taught him well. The more unobtainable something was, the more men would cherish it. Although Chen Guang's reasoning might not be entirely correct, and he had never been a heartless person, he knew that Wu Miaowan was tricking him. But he was happy to jump into it. About an hour later, good news came from the ward next door. It was Wu Qingming who personally came to report. "Don't worry, Chief Chen. Your classmate is fine now. He fainted because he was seriously injured. He was in too much pain and lost a lot of blood. However, he can still hold on with a blood transfusion. The injuries on his body look terrifying, but they're all concentrated on the right side. The flesh on his thigh is strong enough. Although the thunderfire shards pierce quite a bit, they didn't completely cut through his bones. The injured muscles and bones can be healed by the medicine of Thousand Flower Valley. The clothes he's wearing are specially made, so they saved his life. The shards didn't pierce into his waist. The injuries on his arm are more serious, but it's still within the ability of Thousand Flower Valley." Chen Guang let out a long sigh of relief. "That's good. Is he still not awake?" Speaking of which, the old men were a bit biased. Lin Jingwei had such powerful equipment on him, but they didn't even give him a set. Forget it, he was a weakling after all. The defense of the clothes might not be as good as his perfect body, so it was useless to wear them. Wu Qingming shook her head. "He won't wake up for a while. I think he'll wake up tomorrow. Chief Chen, your injuries aren't light either. Please rest well." Chen Guang didn't say much to her. He knew his own situation well. Although the earth-paced exploder's ability was ridiculously weak, there was a fundamental difference between having and not having the ability to regenerate. When he was fighting with those people earlier, the flesh on the outside of his finger joints was almost gone. Now that he was bandaging Wu Miaowan's wound, it felt itchy and numb. It had only been 2 to 3 hours, and a layer of fresh flesh had grown out. At the very least, the periosteum covering the bone should have formed. Chen Guang waved his hand. "It's fine. Since the situation has changed and the poison sect and dark sect are so restless, I can't be like before. Since they took the initiative to attack, I have to return the favor." After saying that, he grimaced in pain again. Damn it, he forgot that he was injured. Also, after talking to the two elders for so long, he was infected by their genteel way of speaking. It was as if this was the only way to look cool. However, food had to be eaten one bite at a time, and things had to be done step by step. Although he had decided on this plan, and the Guangdong General Headquarters was now well equipped, there were still many things that needed to be perfected, especially when it came to intelligence. The two major sects, the Poison Sect and Dark Sect, saw that the situation was not in their favor, and had retreated. The Guangdong General Headquarters and the Wen family had put in a lot of effort, but they could only catch some small characters in the corner and destroy a few insignificant strongholds. There must be an expert guiding them behind the scenes, and he must have mastered the essence of anti-tracking and anti-detection. When it was about midnight, Xianqin and Wu Miaowan, who had been taking care of Chen Guang in the ward, went out for a walk. When they returned, they brought bad news to Chen Guang. The other 4 people who had ambushed him at the airport in the afternoon had been found. However, they were long gone, and only 4 corpses were left. It was the people from the Six Sword Sect who found the 4 of them. Unfortunately, before our people arrived, the 4 of them were already dead. This is a picture of the scene. It's a little strange. Chief, please take a look. In front of their master, Xianqin and Wu Miaowan, did not want to call Chen Guang by his elegant nickname, Swollen Chrysanthemum Chief. Hence, they addressed him more formally. Chen Guang took Xianchin's phone and zoomed in on the photo. The 4 corpses were scattered in an alley. Their faces were green, and the blood they spat out had solidified into a brown color. This is strange. They were not dead for long. How did the color of their blood turn like this? Although Chen Guang did not know much about forensic science, he could still understand such a basic problem. This is the autopsy report from the people from the Six Swords sect, and our forensic scientists. Chief, please take a look. Xianchin handed over another stack of reports. Chen Guang took them and flipped through them briefly. There was one point that he could not understand. There were too many professional terms. Although the old man was known as a peerless genius, he would not understand anything that he had not learned. It was not like he could learn everything by himself. He caught 2 important points. The deceased suffered a heavy blow when they were alive. Their organs were shattered. This was the report of an ordinary forensic scientist. The deceased should have died from an extremely strange internal force. After being hit, this internal force would cause the blood to coagulate. It seems like poison, but it is not. However, it is extremely vicious. The organs would turn into an abnormal powder. The person who made the move should be the same person. Moreover, it was someone that the 4 of them trusted very much. To kill with one move without any struggle. The person's strength is not to be underestimated. He is at least at the pinnacle of skin force. The Six Swords sect was once the eagle claw of the imperial court. They claimed to have a system of autopsies. Obviously, they had seen more than ordinary forensic scientists. Chen Guang put the report on the quilt, leaned his back against the pillow, and fell into deep thought. He muttered to himself, an internal force that can coagulate blood. It seems like poison, but it is not. It can turn the internal organs into powder in one move, and turn the blood spat out brown. How high-end. The others saw that he was deep in thought. Although no one thought that a martial arts greenhorn like him could have any high opinion, he was still the chief. The subordinates did not want to disturb the leader when he was thinking. After a few minutes, the sound of snoring came from this guy's nose. Abbess Xian Yuan and Wu Qingming rolled their eyes and left. The director of the thinker fell asleep. It would be a miracle if Chen Guang could think of anything. He had only come into contact with Xianchin, Wu Miaowan, Second Uncle Wen, Wen, and a few lackeys from the Dark Sect and Poison Sect. In the past, he had always been an outsider, so there was no way he would know these things. He had originally planned to pretend to think, but in fact, he was just passing time. He wanted to prevent his subordinates from looking down on him as the ignorant and incompetent chief. He did not expect that he would be too tired today. He was injured, and when the Earth Sauce Exploder's regenerative ability took effect, he had been continuously consuming a lot of energy. Lying down in a comfortable position, he fell asleep without any resistance. When he woke up, it was already dawn the next day. He stretched and removed the bandages himself. The external injuries were almost healed. Chen Guang simply jumped out of bed. This movement woke Xianchin and Wu Miaowan, who were sleeping on the bed next to him. The 2 of them opened their eyes in a daze. Wu Miaowan jumped out of bed and waved her hands to press Chen Guang. Chief, what are you doing? Lie back down quickly. Chen Guang jumped to the side and raised his newly regenerated hands. Don't be nervous. I'm fine like this. Look at my hands. Wu Miaowan stared for a long time before she could believe her eyes. How did you recover so quickly? My special medicine is so powerful? Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. Have you forgotten? The old man has a sacred elemental body. Chief, how many functions does your sacred elemental body have? Don't worry about the details. Wu Miaowan could not be bothered to ridicule him anymore. She simply crawled back under the covers and mumbled, "Then I'll just report to you like this. After you fell asleep yesterday, you really kept me and my little sweetheart busy." Chen Guang rushed to Wu Miaowan's side and asked, "Wait, tell me the truth. Is there something else you're hiding from me?" Xianchin, who was sleeping beside him, had her head shrunk into the blanket and was motionless. It was hard to tell if she was pretending to be asleep or really hadn't woken up. Wu Miaowan nudged Xianqin with her butt. Xianqin saw that she couldn't pretend anymore, so she timidly stuck her head out. All right. Actually, little Miaowan and I already knew last week. It was Sect Master Wen who contacted us before she left. She said that she would handle the rest of the matter alone and asked us to stop you. If you didn't ask, we wouldn't tell you about it. Even if you knew, we wouldn't help you find a way to find her. It would be best if we could stop you, or even better, tie you up and forbid you from leaving the house. She said that you were a hindrance, and that staying at home would be the greatest help you could give her. Chen Guang was flabbergasted. He was furious. Why couldn't Wenwen's illness be cured? Her exact words? Xianqin nodded. That's right. I've really seen a ghost. Chen Guang waved his hand in exasperation. All right. That's it. If there's anything else, say it all at once. There's also the matter about your family. Ah, my family? What happened to them? Chen Guang immediately tensed up. Don't be nervous. It's fine. Listen to me slowly. Wu Miaowan yawned and forced herself to sit up straight. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.